It would seem the natural soundtrack for the day of the farewell to Congressman John Lewis, which is underway at this very moment at the storied Ebenezer Baptist Church, where Dr. King's words once rang out, and the salutes to Congressman Lewis are deserved and proper and are a big part of today's news. But I don't know if you've caught it from this morning's news or have become aware, but this is going to be an interesting comparison to draw, not who's greater, who do you like, who do you not, no. But the juxtaposition is going to be, shall we say, interesting, and I can't think of a more thoughtful and better place to do it than right here on the Dennis Prager Show. I'm Mark Davis at 660 AM The Answer in Dallas-Fort Worth. Dennis is back tomorrow to finish off your week, but I hate to have to tell you, if you didn't already know, that a great American, a magnificent conservative, and politics aside, an inspiring and godly and wonderful man, the great Herman Cain, has passed away at the age of 74. This was really just in the last couple of hours. He had been hospitalized in Atlanta. And from our listeners and our station in Atlanta, boy, are you guys welcome, but everybody is. You know the number, 1-8-PRAGER-776, 1-8-PRAGER-776. And of course, he was at the Trump rally in Tulsa. I was in a room with him like 4 days earlier with my friend Larry Elder and my friend Alan West. The Uncle Tom movie. By the way, I can't think of a better night for you to stream Uncle Tom and see not just Herman Cain's contribution in it, but how better to appreciate the full context of what people like Herman have meant to America and will still mean. The inspiration that he leaves, the spark that he lit through his incredible years in public service. One of my first memories of, I've known about Herman Cain through his CEO, Godfather's Pizza stage, and of course the 2012 presidential campaign, the 999 plan. That thing still holds up. If you don't know what that was, I'll tell you, just as part of 100 things that are in my head about the great Herman Cain. He came here to North Texas for the premiere of Uncle Tom. So I'm there on a stage with Larry Elder and the director Justin Malone, and they're in the front row. There's Alan West, and there's Herman Cain, and that's about a third of the movie right there. You put these guys together. But here's the interesting thing. I'm just being me. I was doing a bunch of distancing, and so it's not like I was getting hugs or even handshakes at that point by design. But it was a joy and an honor to be in that room with him. And now, of course, everybody that's, been in any kind of close contact with him, and then the Louis Gohmert COVID-19 positive yesterday, and everybody's trying to remember if I've been within, 6 feet of Louis. So simultaneously, as we begin this Thursday show, there are just a lot of things in the air. I have an enormous desire to celebrate the life of Herman Cain and the contributions that he made to our country, to conservatism, to the talk show industry, both as a topic and as a host. Herman Cain was at one point a radio guy, and a good one, because not everybody takes to this when plucked from some other field of endeavor. So just, Lord, welcome your humble servant, Herman Cain. Well done, good and faithful servant. I did this last time I was here on Dennis's show, and not only did nobody mind, folks rather enjoyed it. So if we have God on our minds, I do this at the beginning of the local show, and so why not on this national platform? As we dive into all kinds of agreement and disagreement, all kinds of matters that are uplifting and depressing and everything in between, it's just a good idea to do so with our mind on the God who made us all. Lord, we ask you today for wisdom and for goodwill. The wisdom to navigate our problems from COVID-19 to social strife, to fill us with the energy to be smart and safe as we reclaim our lives and try to reopen and open up our schools and all the things we're trying to do here in the virus era. And Almighty God, give us wisdom to seek smart solutions to our social problems, because we have those. Even as troublemakers seek to divide us amid these divisions, let us treat each other with respect and with patience as we work together to change the list of things that really should be changed but to resist those who would take this opportunity to destroy big parts of our history and our culture. Remind us, Lord, that in these most challenging of times, that you are there to unite us, to follow your guidance, and to treat each other as we would like to be treated. Because we know, Lord, if we follow you, we can get through anything. We ask these things in your holy name. Amen. Phone number is 1-8-Prager-776. Let's give you a little thumbnail of things we might talk about today. How many of these we get to will be largely up to you. I bring them up, and then I bend to the will of the public on those phone lines. And follow me on Twitter, @Mark Davis. You're always welcome to do that. Appreciate it. Another whole talk show that takes place over there. On Mr. Cain. As I've said, I'll spend a lot of time today. Not a lot. How much depends on what you guys want to do. I'm not doing a lot of speechifying. I like to juxtapose my thoughts with you, and many of you apparently are very interested in talking about the treatment that Bill Barr got at the House Judiciary Committee the other day. Oh, I will gladly go into that with you. It was so shameful. Even for today's Democrat Party, it was so shameful. But let me tell you the shameful thing today. I want to focus mostly on the upbeat, the joy of being around Herman Cain a few times. But this is going to be one of those days where the worst in people come out. The worst in people will rear its head. The cesspool, the sewage of social media, the people grandstanding and mocking and pointing, as will happen. But even among some more thoughtful people, there's something where people really need to kind of check themselves. If someone wants to use the passing of Herman Cain as an occasion to say, hey, you might want to wear that mask. Okay, that is not out of school. That's not unsound. However, the notion, there are people going a little further on this, getting up on the high horse, and that Herman Cain's death is tragic and so preventable. I'm sorry. And then you'll get all kinds of endless footage of him at the Trump rally. And guess what? At the Trump rally, he ain't wearing a mask. And you know what? Neither's anybody else, for the most part. And they ain't got it, for the most part. So just everybody repeat after me. I have no idea where Herman Cain got the COVID-19. Say it again, and again, and again. And that way you can avoid the know-it-all condescension and scolding, which many, many, many people are going to weaponize today. But again, if somebody wants to take anybody's very unfortunate COVID-19 death and say, maybe this is an opportunity for all of us to, if there's some things that we're not doing that we could do to reduce our chances of transmission, incoming or outgoing, then maybe it's a good day to do those things. Start doing those things. That's fine. But would that social media and would that our country in 2020, would that it were filled with that kind of thoughtful restraint. I'm guessing we're going to get a good wave of many, many other things. Speaking of the virus, here comes another relief package. Here comes another stimulus. I hate calling it that because it's not a bailout. It's not a stimulus. It's a rescue in what I hope are unique times. But that doesn't mean that I favor it. It doesn't mean one of two things is true. Either cranking out $1,200 more or even more, raiding the already empty treasury to shower millions of Americans with taxpayer money. That's either a good idea or a bad idea. It's either necessary in these horribly trying times or a terrible idea that further dashes our fiscal health. But look through it through the lens of what helps Trump win. If he doesn't do it and stands on that principle, do we get President Biden? And are you fiscally happy then? Lots to do today. God bless and rest in peace, Herman Cain. Mark Davis in for Dennis. Be right back.
The Dennis Prager Show, live from the Relief Factor Pain-Free Studio.
At every turn, it seems like there are more unanswered questions and few honest explanations about why so many of our liberties are under attack.
Why are so many bright people teaching me nonsense?
Some of the scenes of violent protests are just amazing. They're irrational evil.
Dennis Prager and Dr. Wayne Grudem confront the toughest social issues we face today, explained through historical, political, and never-before-told personal stories.
More rabbis, priests, and ministers fear the left and fear God.
When you stand before God at the final judgment, what will you say to him about how you voted on abortion laws?
Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
We're going to be getting back to Mr. Biden in just a second. Some of the things he said about President Trump being racist. It's just unreal. This is a man, Joe Biden, who has lied and said that the NAACP has endorsed him when the NAACP came out and said, "Excuse me, we're a 501c3 corporation. We can't endorse anybody." Oops. Lied about trying to visit Nelson Mandela and getting arrested in his attempt. He said he was with Andrew Young. Andrew Young was the first black ambassador to the United Nations. Marched with MLK, was there when MLK was shot at that motel in Tennessee. And when he was asked about Biden's claim that the two of them attempted to visit Nelson Mandela when Nelson Mandela was imprisoned and that they were arrested in doing so, he said nope, nope, and nope. And I've told you, Biden has for decades talked about how he would organize on Sunday mornings in black churches and strategize how he and others would figure out ways to desegregate restaurants and movie theaters in Wilmington, Delaware. Zero evidence he ever did. Now, why is it people are angry at Rachel Dolezal for lying about being black, but Joe Biden gets a pass for lying about all these things he claims he's done to advance the interests of black people? What it shows you is he thinks of black people as stupid, obviously not capable of investigating these false claims, and, by the way, as props. I'll just show you how much I care, how much I care, how much I care. Never mind my policies are hurtful. Never mind I'm going to oppose choice in schools even though urban parents want that. Never mind I'm going to advocate a bigger and bigger welfare state even though dependencies creates fatherless households. Never mind.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
There are about 700 Uyghurs, mostly women, who are forced to make sneakers for a company that is a long-term supplier for the company that we know as Nike.
Hang on. I don't want anybody to miss this. So there is a slave labor camp where they make sneakers, and that company feeds its products into the factories that make sneakers for Nike, Gordon?
Yeah, this is a Nike supplier. So Nike works directly with the company that maintains what is a camp. It's got high walls, barbed wire, watchtowers, and really looks like a small concentration camp. It is a factory. This company has had a relationship with Nike for over 3 decades. This particular facility makes 8 million pairs of shoes a year, almost all of them for Nike. Nike says in a statement that it doesn't use forced or indentured labor, but indeed we know that it does because Washington Post...
It is the Dennis Prager Show for this Thursday, 30th of July, 2020. Mark Davis in for Dennis. Lots to talk about. Many people wanting to talk about the life, the legacy of Herman Cain, who passed away this morning. Lots of talk about that still resonating today, the incredible, brutal punishment endured by Bill Barr at the hands of Democrats this week at the House Judiciary Committee. And listen, being me, the official talk show space dork of record, how about that magnificent launch at 4:50 in the morning out there Pacific time, 6:50 for me here in Central Time, the Perseverance rover. It'll take 7 months to get to Mars, and it's taking a helicopter with it. A helicopter on Mars. I may pass out from just space dork adrenaline. So cool. So cool. Mars right now is 60 million miles away. It'll take 7 months to get there. It kind of makes you thinking about human beings making that trip. You can do the moon in 3 days. Mars, a little farther. But I thought when I watched Man Walk on the Moon 51 summers ago, right now, when I was 11, I thought surely we'd have footprints on on Mars by the time I'm, I don't know, 30. Well, I'm 62, still waiting. So lots to do today. Let's dive in and see what folks want to do. 1-8-Prager-776, and we are in Pasadena, California. John, hey, Mark Davison for Dennis. How are you?
Hi, Mark. It's so nice to speak with you.
Thank you.
To be honest, I'm really having a heavy heart about Herman Cain today. Back in 2012, when we were looking for a replacement for Obama, I was an early adapter of the Cain train, and really stood behind his message. And I guess what I'm concerned about is so many of the leading conservative voices today are older gentlemen. And, Herman Cain was 74. And are you there? I'm sorry.
I'm right here. Oh, I'm hanging on with rapt attention.
Yeah. I'm just worried about, since you're here today, Mark, you're good friends with Dennis. I mean, do they make a mask big enough for his jowls?
Oh, you're funny. I will take an actual sentence that was coherent in there. And it goes like this, because I do hear the notion of youth and conservatism. And when 2024 comes about, right after the Trump second term, which that last gentleman will love, I'm sure, and I will enjoy the thought of him enduring it. No, that's unkind. My first thought is for everybody to come to clarity and realize how great conservatism actually is. That's my wish. Anyway, though, when the 2024 Derby rolls out, one might think that Mike Pence would be there, but there will be a still youthful Ted Cruz, a still youthful Marco Rubio, and who knows what, a youthful Nikki Haley, a positive whippersnapper, and Dan Crenshaw, perhaps. Yes, the Texas congressman with the eye patch, if you need the identifier. So I'm energized by the notion of younger conservatives working their way through the ranks. Hello, Kristi Noem in South Dakota. Is she everybody's favorite governor? I mean, and it's not to, throw any shade toward my own governor, Greg Abbott, whom I love and who's a friend, and Ron DeSantis in Florida and various others, Mike DeWine in Ohio. I don't believe there's any shortage of young conservatives ready to roll. Alrighty, we are in Pittsburgh. Edna, hey, Mark Davis in for Dennis. Welcome. How are you?
Hello. You lead right in. You're quite a host here because you lead right into my topic.
Well, I'm glad. How did I know that? Look what I did there.
I don't know, but you're talking to a friend. Really, our spirit, we're aligned as friends, and to my brothers and sisters out there, and all my conservative, libertarian type friends who don't want to wear a mask. Have any of us thought younger people don't tend to get as sick? I'm 66. And if I caught it, I wouldn't maybe be able to vote in November.
Yep.
Please, for the sake of proportionately, conservatives tend to be older. For the sake of our nation, please wear a mask, even if you don't want to. And true, it is somewhat of an infringement. However, I haven't heard one talk show host pick up on this. I would like to see today's topic on every program be this. Please wear the mask until Wednesday after the election, and we've won.
Yeah, well, then you can do what you want. All right, well, let's keep everybody. Listen, it's either a good idea or it's not, and I think it's a good idea. And Edna, thank you. Of course, it's a good. Listen, are there people who have over emphasized it, been over scolding? It's a panacea for all. Of course. However, all I can do is speak for myself, and I've actually talked about doing just a quick selfie video public service announcement. Yours is great, and I may, if I can, incorporate it. It's like, listen, feel the way you want about a mask, but if it keeps you healthier so you can vote on November 3rd and get that Trump second term, wear the dang thing. Complain all the while if you wish, but wear the dang thing when it's appropriate, and it's appropriate. I mean, if you're at the beach alone or driving in your car by yourself, guess what? Don't worry about it. But if you're in close contact with people you don't know, then, and certainly at a business that requires it, which they have every right to do. I'm not a fan of mask mandates from government at all under any circumstance. But when you're in close contact with strangers, it's just a good idea to do. It's smart. It's considerate. It's a good idea. Anyway, my mask selfie PSA would essentially involve staring into the camera. Of course, it would sound like this. Hey, I'm Mark David. I have to work on that because the thing, I've had to, cut a hole in the thing for the purpose of the PSA. Of course, that kind of defeats the imagery, doesn't it? But basically, the message would be, hi, I'm Mark Davis, and I hate this thing. I hate wearing this thing. I hate seeing it on me. I hate seeing it on you. I like smiling and having it known that I'm smiling. I know our eyes smile. I know. But I want you to see my actual smile, and I want to see your actual smile. I want to see each other. I want to be around each other. I don't have to worry about whether I left the doggone thing in the car while I'm walking in to get a bagel. It's making me crazy. I hate this thing, but I'm wearing it. Because I realize that if my wearing it makes me less likely to bring it home to my family, if my wearing it makes me less likely to get it, because I'm actually a member of 3 risk groups, one involving age, one involving weight, one involving non-membership in Black Lives Matter. We all know the all 3 are a factor. If that's the case, then I'm going to do what I can do. It's no skin off my nose, pardon the expression. So at the times when it makes sense, I'm going to wear it. I hate it. I can't wait till I can get on a plane without it. I probably ain't going to get on a plane until I can. But in the meantime, though, for those of us who just hate these doggone masks, fine. I can't make you love them. You can't make me love it. I hate it on me. I hate it on you. I hate that it's a good idea to wear it, but it is, so I'm going to do it. This message brought to you by the Ad Council. I don't know. So that's just, I'll probably cobble it first. I need to cut it down in length there because that got a little wordy, which I will do. Mark Davis in for Dennis. Follow me on Twitter at Mark Davis. And just a quick word, because we're so very, very grateful to the folks there at WGKA AM 920, The Answer in Atlanta. Jonathan Bryant, the program director there in Atlanta, it tells us about their history with Herman Cain. He worked there, had the bottom line with Herman Cain, and mentions the station in his book. So specific Atlanta memories there for Herman. Be right back.
The Dennis Prager Show, live from the Relief Factor Pain-Free Studio. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
One, I get to continue my conversation with Roger Stone. Roger, I still cannot get over the moment a week ago I heard your sentence was commuted, and then shortly thereafter you declared rather boldly that you'd been born again, that you'd given your life to Christ. And I said to my wife, God's hand is on this country, because not only do we have a president who would commute your horrible sentence, but we have people like you being willing to say what you said on a program that was obviously watched by a lot of people who weren't looking forward to that part of it. They just were happy for you and for the commutation.
Well, I knew when I went on Sean's show, I knew that secular liberal elitists in the media would mock me, as they have. There's a big piece in Washington Monthly. Oh, Roger Stone's converted to Christ. What a joke. It's a head fake. It's a ploy. Okay, we'll see. It doesn't matter to me what they think, because all that matters is what he thinks, and he knows what's in my heart. It'll be proven over time. So I'm not worried about that. What we see happening today is an epic struggle between dark and light. This is it for the United States. We're going to hurtle over the cliff to globalism and face 1,000 years of darkness unless we win the next election, and that we then move to preserve our constitutional government and end the epic two-party duopoly control of this country. That
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Mike Gallagher Show.
About 1.4 million Americans applied for unemployment benefits once again last week. The new data just released. It is, of course, a discouraging sign. Workers have now filed more than 52 million initial jobless claims since layoffs spiked in mid-March, according to the New York Post, suggesting about a third of the American labor force has been out of work at some point during the pandemic. Lawmakers are still trying to hash out what to do, whether to extend that $600 a week boost to weekly unemployment benefits. It is a tough debate. No easy answers for me. I believe the answer has to be, we got to get people back to work. We have to get people back to work. We have to acknowledge that the virus is here. You have to be careful. And incidentally, back to the lesson of my friend, the president has urged everyone to wear a mask when you are in proximity to other people, if you can't socially distance. I was pretty mindful in my office. We wear a mask. Everybody has a mask in the office. But if I'm in the office with somebody, if I'm in an office setting and I'm 6, 7, 8 feet away, I take the mask off. Well, this particular coworker and friend, the other day, the day that they started feeling symptoms, that morning, I was in the office with them, about, I would say 7, 8 feet away, and I instinctively take the mask off. And that person even said at that time, because
How did Karlin Borisenko, a left-leaning psychologist in New England, find herself at a Trump rally? And how did she react? One of the most powerful videos we've ever put out. The latest video from Prager University. See it at prageru.com, where we teach what isn't taught.
That they do. Dennis is back tomorrow to wrap up your week on a Friday and wrap up the month of July. Holy cow, where did that go? Mark Davis with you here in Happy North Texas at 6:60 a.m. The Answer. I'm the morning host, and that means I've already logged one talk show, so with whatever remaining vestiges of energy I have, and believe you me, these days, I often make the joke, I can do 2 or 3 talk shows today, and some days I pretty well get that chance. So it's always a joy to be here on the Dennis Prager Show. Let's talk to some of the folks who have wandered in. The passing of Herman Cain, the savaging of Bill Barr in Congress this week, and his patience and resolve. Who is the Democrat genius who thought it was a good idea to invite him? Who thinks Democrats came off looking well on that occasion? And various other things ready to roll. 1-8-PRAGER-776. We are in Tampa. Hey, Kathy. Mark Davis in for Dennis. How are you? Hey, Kathy.
Kathy.
Hi. Nice to have you. Welcome.
Yes, I'm a long-time listener, first-time caller.
Thank you. Well, you wait till Dennis was here? I get your first-time call? I'm particularly honored, and so is he. I appreciate it.
Well, I wanted to share a wonderful memory of Herman Cain from the 2012 Republican Convention here in Tampa.
Sure.
I was working as a volunteer near the Fox News booth, and as candidates went by, I'd shout out their names and say hello. Some would ignore me, some maybe didn't hear me, whatever. But when I shouted out Herman Cain, he said hello, and I said hi. I worked on your, I worked locally for your campaign here, and I'm really sorry. Don't believe all those terrible things that they said about you. I know they're not true, and Godspeed. And as he went by and he did his thing on Fox News. As he was leaving, I was busy assisting some of the delegates. But he said,
So long, Kathy. Have a good day. I can't believe that he remembered me. All these other candidates, either ignored me or didn't,
Oh, and even the well-meaning ones, even the really well-meaning ones who enjoyed the 10 seconds of interface with you, it's not that they necessarily would have remembered your name a few minutes later. It is a measure of the kind of personability that he had, the kind of relatability that he had. And in fact, he had not been in the deep glaze, the bubble of campaign life. I got to tell you, we talk about politicians all the time, and, we kick them around and they deserve it. But it will suck the brain out of your head to campaign for year in, year out, 5,000 rubber chicken dinners, shaking 947 squillion hands. I'm surprised their brains aren't just all leaking out their ears. Herman Cain came to that 2012 campaign with a freshness and a businessman's focus. You could suggest that our current president has that same benefit, and I appreciate that so much. I was around Herman probably 3 times in person, probably had him on the show 5 or 6 times beyond that, and just a remarkable force of nature. Okay, the 999 plan. You will hear this referred to a lot. He on the debate stages of 2012 that eventually yielded Mitt Romney. My view of Mitt 2012 and my view of Mitt now, vastly different. Anyway, though, the 999 plan, what was that? That was the Herman Cain blueprint for doing away with our tax structure as we have it now, doing away with payroll taxes, doing away with capital gains, doing away with estate taxes, death taxes, all of them gone. Okay, how do you run the government? 999, a 9% personal tax, okay, which for, people getting hit at 27 or 33 sounds pretty good. Yeah, but wait, 9% federal sales tax, consumption tax, the fair tax, its proponents like to call it, and a 9% corporate tax. So 9% personal, 9% federal sales, 9% corporate. Was that ever plausible? Absolutely. Absolutely it was. And if we were to pass that tomorrow, it'd be better than we have right now. So anyway, God bless Herman Cain for these and various other ideas. Great story, Kathy. Thank you very, very much. And we thank you for everything you're going to... Let's branch it out a little bit. Remembrances, recollections, appreciations of Herman Cain. Thoughts about what's going to happen, the scoldings he's going to get. Oh, we know he died because he wasn't wearing a mask at the Trump rally. Guess what? No, you don't. These and other things, plenty of other issues in the news. Mark Davis in for Dennis Prager. Stick around.
The Dennis Prager Show, live from the Relief Factor Pain-Free Studio.
At every turn, it seems like there are more unanswered questions and few honest explanations about why so many of our liberties are under attack.
Why are so many bright people teaching me nonsense?
Some of the scenes of violent protests are just amazing. They're irrational evil.
Dennis Prager and Dr. Wayne Grudem confront the toughest social issues we face today, explained through historical, political, and never-before-told personal stories.
More rabbis, priests, and ministers fear the left than fear God.
When you stand before God at the final judgment, what will you say to him about how you voted on abortion laws?
Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
The president has, now wait for it, I know you're going to be shocked. The president's been called racist for not, in the view of Representative Jim Clyburn, who's a good friend of the late John Lewis, for not showing sufficient respect to him. Here's what Mr. Clyburn said about President Trump.
He has very low regards for people of color. It's just that simple.
This man has a very low regard toward people of color because the president has not gone to the memorial where John Lewis is and shown his respects. You know, he refused to attend Trump's inauguration. He refused to attend Trump's State of the Union addresses, at least up until then. He boycotted the 2017 opening of a civil rights museum in Mississippi that Trump attended because Trump was attending it. He encouraged the impeachment. He called him a racist. Quote, "We need a president, a leader of the national government who's not a racist." Trump is a racist, honestly. So President Trump does not show somebody sufficient respect who called him a racist and didn't come to his inauguration and skipped his State of the Union addresses. And Trump's supposed to go to his show sufficient respect. By the way, he tweeted. President Donald Trump posted a tweet offering prayers of condolence on the passing of Representative John Lewis Saturday afternoon. Representative Lewis, the civil rights icon. Even Don Lemon says, you know, I don't even think Representative Lewis would have wanted him to come. Now, you think his family wanted Trump to come? I'm just asking. Trump shows up, then what?
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
Is it true that you were suspended by Twitter, and are you back?
I am back. I was suspended for a period of time because I posted, you probably saw that viral video that Breitbart put up, which was, a group of a dozen or so doctors, actual medical doctors, talking about their thoughts on hydroxychloroquine and its benefits. They were with a congressman on the steps of Capitol Hill, and apparently the doctors at Twitter, which I'm not sure there are any, but they thought that it was somehow misinformation, even though it's very clear that the science on all of this stuff is not settled. Just this week, there was a study out of Yale. A Yale epidemiologist said that the benefits look pretty good. The Henry Ford Clinic did the same thing about 2 weeks ago. CNN itself, Jake Tapper reported on the benefits of studies that hydroxychloroquine saved lives. But again, that's not what big tech wants. They want to push the leftist agenda of fear. And so anyone who
and click on the Town Hall TV button.
And at this moment in time, that will enable you to see the room I'm sitting in here in Irving, Texas. Right there, there's a fence across the street from us on Beltline. That's the division of our property and the eastern fringe of DFW Airport. So you usually see Dennis in whatever room he is in. Right now, it's here in Texas because that's where I am. Mark Davis filling in for Dennis. Appreciate you guys. And listen, speaking of folks I appreciate, you have all helped build MyPillow into the amazing company that it is today. Now, Mike Lindell, inventor, CEO of MyPillow, wants to do some giving back, and you can get great discounts on all the MyPillow products. If you go to MyPillow.com right now, click on those radio listener specials, you'll see some amazing offers. Right now, MyPillow has the exclusive radio special, buy one, get one free on all kinds of things. The Supima MyPillows, the Giza Dream Sheets, I have those. The MyPillow towels, the roll and go anywhere pillows, the duvet covers, which are just fun to say, the Giza pillowcases, bolster pillows, neck pillows. Just get in there, buy one, get one free. And if you buy Mike Lindell's book, what are the odds? From Crack Addict to CEO, you get free shipping and a $25 gift card. Go to MyPillow.com, enter the promo code Prager, or call 1-800-761-6302. 1-800-761-6302. Promo code Prager. MyPillow, answering the call for more face masks as the country continues to deal with the pandemic, and they'll be making face masks for hospitals all across the country. So, MyPillow.com, promo code Prager. All righty, let us hit some more phone calls. 1-8-Prager-776, 1-8-Prager-776. There's a wonderful bit of history that I can share, because I mentioned earlier on that AM 920 The Answer, WGKA, was where Herman did his very, very first radio talk show. He tells the story in his book. Let me go ahead and share it verbatim. This is from, this is Herman Cain, My Journey to the White House. And he writes, As for my career in radio, this is circa 2000. Martha Zoller, an Atlanta area radio talk show host, started me on it when she asked me to substitute for her. It went so well, this was after my Senate race, that people would call me and say, you really ought to keep your voice out there. At the same time, a couple of people who had worked on the campaign suggested likewise, so I asked them to prepare the format for the Herman Cain show. Then I pitched the idea to the general manager of WGKA, our own AM 920 The Answer in Atlanta. And he writes, I outlined my concept in a 45-minute presentation in which I stressed that I plan to deal with major issues. When I finished, the manager said, well, you thought about this a bit, didn't you? And soon after that, I was offered a 2-hour program on Saturdays, 4 to 6 p.m. When I started, that time slot didn't even have a pulse, but after about a year, the station officials began to notice a blip, like a heartbeat, and they said, hey, people are listening. And then he moved across town in Atlanta radio, but it is from the community of Atlanta, then embraced by the community of America, the Republican community, the conservative community. 2012 was a busy, busy primary. It obviously eventually yielded Mitt Romney, and maybe less said about that, the better. But the inclusion of Herman Cain made it a more interesting race. The life and pronouncements and energy of Herman Cain have made us a better country, and we salute him today on the news of his passing this morning. 1-8-PRAGER-776, 1-8-PRAGER-776. All right, so obviously Herman Cain, obviously Bill Barr's flogging at the hands of you know why the Democrats wouldn't let him answer anything? And it created a total hashtag of reclaiming my time. Mr. Barr, isn't it true that you and the president are racist, authoritarian, demon spawn? Well, no, but reclaiming my time. What? Who thought that was a good look? Who thought that was a good idea? And the more I thought about it, I thought, you know, as goofy and as dumb and as cowardly as that looks, might have been a superior choice to letting him actually answer the questions. Because when he actually replied to their attacks, he danced circles around them. And I rather enjoyed the rhythm of this. A Democrat would ask him a question, so to speak, engage in posturing, and then immediately interrupt with reclaiming my time. And then, obviously, then the pendulum swings to a Republican member of the committee who would then say, Mr. Attorney General, would you like to actually answer some of the things that that my Democrat colleague just asked? Oh, goodness gracious me. We are in Jersey City. Doug, Mark Davis in for Dennis. How are you, sir? Hi, Doug. Alrighty, these chances pass but once. We are in Anchorage. This is cool. Hey, John. Mark Davison for Dennis Prager. How are you?
Hi, how are you?
I'm fantastic. Nice to have you.
It's so great to be talking to you, Dennis.
I don't have the heart to tell him. Go right ahead. Nice to have you.
I'm a little confused. You look a little different on the television.
That's because I am, in fact, not Dennis. I'm Mark Davis, noble fill-in host for Dennis. So, ta-da! There you go.
No.
There you go. There you go.
Dennis,
okay.
Dennis?
Anything? You know, unlike the last guy, at least this guy had some level of comic value. All righty, we are in Prescott, Arizona. Ted, hey, Mark Davis in for Dennis. How are you?
Hey, good morning.
Hi.
Dennis, or not Dennis.
Well, this is my day. That's okay, no problem. Nice to have you. Thank you.
You're a great host.
Thanks.
For Dennis. Anyway, I wanted to comment on the loss of Herman Cain. He was just a great man, fine man, and a gentleman. And I'll tell you, he would have been welcome in my home anytime.
Yeah.
And I'm really saddened with the loss. And God be with him.
And God is with him, and he is with God. And it's just a good idea to be reminded that with the sense of loss that we feel, with the sense of grief that we experience, that the counterpoint to that is the celebration in heaven. The celebration in heaven. On the occasion of the arrival of any child of God who has paved a path there. And what we are left with is a legacy of courage, a legacy of just of a good and godly man. And he will live on in the memories and in the inspiration that he has given to a number of generations. God bless you, Herman. Mark Davison for Dennis. Right back.
The Dennis Prager Show, live from the Relief Factor Pain-Free Studio.
Okay, we got to be real careful.
Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
I would remind Mr. Jordan, Mr. Biggs, and Mr. Johnson to stop violating the rules of the committee, to stop violating the safety of the members of the committee, to stop holding themselves out as not caring by refusing to wear their masks.
Can we get the picture? Is it permissible to drink a sip of coffee?
It is not permissible.
Not to drink. We can't drink coffee in the room now. I'm getting ready to ask questions. And I will.
But could I get you to respond to, I'm not even going to use an adjective. I'm just going to say yesterday's hearing on Capitol Hill.
What a colossal waste of time. Embarrassing. I think the average American watches what's going on there, and it's something that kind of is depressing, I think. You'd want to see Congress getting to the bottom of things. You have the Attorney General in front of you. You could be talking about border security. You could be talking about defeating MS-13, going after the heroin opioid abuse epidemic, maybe asking for updates on cleaning house. Let's find out about the progress of the Durham investigation and try to get more information out that's productive for the American public to form their own independent judgment on what's going on, to know government's working for them. But instead, that was an embarrassment, and the Attorney General was ready for it. I mean, he was
Yes.
every time someone tried throwing a punch at him, he just kind of bob out of the way and clock him right back.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
The president has, now wait for it, I know you're going to be shocked. The president's been called racist for not, in the view of Representative Jim Clyburn, who was a good friend of the late John Lewis, for not showing sufficient respect to him. Here's what Mr. Clyburn said about President Trump.
He has very low regards for people of color. It's just that simple.
This man has a very low regard toward people of color because the president has not gone to the memorial where John Lewis is and shown his respects. You know, he refused to attend Trump's inauguration. He refused to attend Trump's State of the Union addresses, at least up until then. He boycotted the 2017 opening of a civil rights museum in Mississippi that Trump attended because Trump was attending it.
It is the Dennis Prager Show for a Thursday, the 30th day of July, 2020. Great to have you here. Let's see what we can take care of here in our dwindling minutes here of hour number one. We are in Glendale, Cal. David, hi. Mark Davison for Dennis. How are you?
Hey, Dennis, how you doing?
I'm good. It's a comedy premise now. Everyone just please call me Dennis. I'm honored. What's going on? Nice to have you.
Oh, is this not Dennis?
It's happy sub-host Mark Davis. How are you?
Oh, I apologize for that. I was confused because you sound just as stupid as Dennis.
No problem at all. Our telephone number is 1-8-PRAGER-776, and we are in Jersey City, New Jersey. Doug, hey, Mark Davis in for Dennis. How are you?
Trying to fool us. You got those thick jowls.
Hey, Doug. All righty. We are in Hopkins, Minnesota. Hey, Dan. Mark Davis, welcome.
Mark,
in for Dennis.
I love you,
How
buddy.
are you doing?
You're fabulous. I wish we could hear you every morning in Minnesota.
Hey, I'm sorry, Dan. Go right ahead.
No. Well, my point is, I have an idea, and I think it's really the true American way for education.
Yeah.
You can demonstrate to a government agency, that's the downside, having a government agency, but you could demonstrate knowledge and competence on any degree area and open it wide open to the free enterprise market to train people in every degree, particularly engineering and in science, computer science, accounting. You could really, it'd be a knockout punch to the Marxist indoctrination of universities. It's done at a fraction of the cost.
You bet.
Regardless of your economic level, if you could demonstrate competency and knowledge, you'd get an honorary degree from the government rather than spending $60,000 to $100,000 a year in these stupid universities to get a work.
I don't know the honorary degree. I know the intent, and the intent is smart, and you're very, very in touch with what seems to be a sort of a modern mood. God bless everybody's college degrees, and college is still a great idea for many. Choose carefully where you go. There are some disciplines that absolutely are going to require a college degree forever: law, medicine, et cetera, et cetera. But if there's some real world applications of things, there's other validities that could be attached to things that you do. And the notion of doing things with your hands, the notion of being a craftsman, the notion of certain technical skills that you can get at a technical school that is very different than having, some broad indoctrination that you might have to endure on various political realms at the large state university down the road from you. I think that, I mean, it kind of breaks my heart a little bit. I mean, I'm proud of my journalism degree from the University of Maryland. I hope I put that to some good use. And there are people who I would say, you absolutely need to go get a degree. I would tell them to be extremely careful about the university that you get it from, as Dennis has wisely taught and various others. And a whole lot of other people, I'd say, college just may not be the best thing for you. And the American university system, as Dennis has said, is one of the things that has turned people against the concept of embracing of this country as great. Mark Davison for Dennis. Stick around. 1 hour down, 2 more to go. We got plenty more to come. Sit tight.
The Dennis Prager Show, live from the Relief Factor Pain-Free Studio. Trending now on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
If Joe Biden wins, how significantly changed will America be than if Donald Trump is reelected?
Massively and terrifyingly, for a couple of reasons. Number one, if Joe Biden wins, the odds are pretty high that there's also a Democratic Senate. There's a narrow window where Biden wins and Republicans keep the Senate, but in all likelihood, the two are going to be closely tied together. It means the Senate will end the filibuster if the Democrats take the majority, which means they will be able to pass anything they want with just 50 votes. We'll see massive tax increases, not just the tax cuts repealed, but a massive increase in taxes, a gallop towards socialized medicine, a gallop towards socialism generally. They'll also do something structurally. If Democrats win in November, within the first 6 months of next year, we'll see 2 new states in the Union. They will try to admit both the District of Columbia and Puerto Rico, and their reason is simple and crass. It's power. That would produce, in all likelihood, 4 new Democratic senators. So if the Democrats start in January with 51 senators, they could very well end the summer with 55. That is a dangerous agenda, and they will also try to pack the courts, depending on if they have the votes. What does that mean? That means something like increasing the Supreme Court from 9 votes to 15 votes, which would be putting 6 radical leftists on the courts immediately.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Larry Elder Show.
What do I think Donald Trump will do for my people? Well, what Donald Trump will do for the country is not to raise taxes on job creators. What Donald Trump will do for the country is to stop this march towards single payer. What Donald Trump will do for the country is support choice in school, so parents living near an underperforming bad public school might have an option out of that underperforming bad public school. Donald Trump wants to do something about illegal immigration, indeed has done so. And I've told you a million times, there is an economist named George Borjas, probably has done more work on the impact of illegal immigration than maybe any other researcher in the country. And he says there's no question that illegal immigration creates winners and losers. The obvious winners are the illegals themselves and the employers who hire them at lower rates than they otherwise would by hiring native employees. The loser are people who are unskilled workers, those living in the inner city, both black and brown, who have to compete for jobs that otherwise would be held by them, and who have to deal with the downward pressure that the availability of illegal alien workers puts on their wages. Peter Kirsanow estimates that the downward pressure costs the average unskilled black worker something like $1,800 a year. $1,800 less money the average black unskilled worker makes because of the presence of illegal alien workers. So that's what Donald Trump, I hope, will continue to do. And I hope Donald Trump will continue to put on originalist justices. So eventually Roe v. Wade gets overturned, which I think is one of the worst Supreme Court decisions ever. Probably only after Plessy versus Ferguson and Dred Scott.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
What about what is happening to Biden? How is it possible that he could be doing well in the polls when he seems to be a shell of his former self, and even his former self was a shell?
Well, you and I will have to do a whole nother hour on this, but he's right now framed it as a referendum on Donald Trump. And that's been very effective for him, is that it's almost a vote of no confidence, not a Biden versus Trump election. As soon as it becomes an actual election and it's a binary choice, it's a completely different set of decision-making matrices. Whether or not you like Trump or whether you want Trump to continue for 4 more years versus Joe Biden, two completely different things. And they're being conflated as the same thing in some of this public polling.
At some point, Biden has to come out of the basement and has to appear more like a conventional candidate. Things are strange because of COVID, because we're not having the conventions in the way that we normally do. But I really think it's easy to say I'd vote for Biden. But as we come down to the actual voting day, he's going to have to do something that he hasn't done yet.
Well,
I just wonder how that's going to work out.
So if I was Biden, I wouldn't debate. Things can change very quickly. It's that old Hemingway quote. It can happen gradually, then suddenly. And do not be surprised if that happens. I tell every Trump supporter out there, this thing could be a late breaker, the likes of which we've never seen. Remember, Ronald Reagan was down 7 points to Jimmy Carter 10 days before the election. And he had a late break, the likes of which no one has ever seen. Pat Goodell, may he rest in peace, that told me that story at least 22 times. Where he's like, we in the Carter campaign, we saw it happen and we couldn't stop it. We could not stop it. People were showing up and they were just, the late break is a real thing. It happened in 2016. And
keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Mike Gallagher Show.
Normal people don't think the New Jersey gym owner, the guy that owns Atlas Gym in New Jersey, should be arrested. They've been, and listen to what this guy said that might be a rallying cry for every American. On Tucker Carlson's show last night on Fox News, Tucker asked this guy, Ian Smith, why have you stood up to New Jersey Governor Murphy? Why have you stood up to those who say you're not allowed to be open? And incidentally, if New Jersey's doing so great, how could a gym still be forced to shut down? So when Tucker Carlson asked the gym owner why he has resisted the way he has, perhaps his answer will be etched in the hearts and minds of every American. Here's what he said.
Because I'm not afraid of tyrants, and no American should be, because we outnumber them greatly, and the only thing that they run off of is fear, which is why you see what you see in the media, where they're pumping fear into the coronavirus when what they should be pumping is solutions. They don't do that. They don't ever offer any solutions. It's wear a mask, shut up, and wait for a vaccine. That's not public health, and I won't subscribe to it.
many versions of America the Beautiful will inspire. Any opportunity to roll out some Ray Charles is a good idea. Hey, Mark Davis in for Dennis Prager. DennisPrager.com, place for all things Dennis. Phone call for the radio shows, 1-8-Prager-776. Follow me on Twitter at Mark Davis. That's who I am. You're a happy morning host at 6:60 a.m. The Answer. We're one show down and one in progress here on the national platform and the Salem Radio Network with a lot of things on our minds this morning. The passing of Herman Cain this morning at the age of 74. At the beginning of the last hour, I talked about what people will do with this, and much of it unfortunate. It's just probably a pretty good day to stay away from the cesspool of social media, or at least be very selective in what you do. Because before we even get to the worst of the unkind and the worst of the dreck of social media, there are some people who probably think they're fairly well-meaning, who will say, "Well, Herman Cain's death was so preventable. It was because he was at the Trump rally not wearing a mask." Oh, I'm sorry. Are you the king of clairvoyant contact tracing? You somehow know he picked up the bug at the Trump rally? Oh, really? Well, you don't know anything of the kind. So the standard I set, and you can set your own or differ with mine or whatever. If somebody wants to take, anything from the Congressman Louis Gohmert positive test we learned of yesterday, to Herman Cain's passing that we learned of today, and use those as an opportunity to say, if you're not being as safe as you could be, and it's no skin off your nose, we're not talking about wearing it at the beach when you're walking by yourself or driving around in your own car, but is it a good idea to wear a mask if you're going to be in close proximity to strangers? You know what? Yeah, it is. So might want to do that. That's okay. But the people who will condescendingly, somehow magically diagnose and somehow contact trace with wishful thinking, the Herman Cain original COVID bug to the Trump rally. That's just opportunism. All righty, let us a couple of things, topically speaking, as we get ready to head back to calls. The COVID payout. President Trump says the second stimulus could be way higher than $1,200. I can feel a lot of people going, "Yeah, please." I understand the desperation. I totally do. So I have two questions. About the next COVID payout. Number one, good idea or bad idea? Just on its face. Good idea because folks are desperate. People are in need. It is not a bailout. I don't even consider it a stimulus, because both bailouts and stimuli have a bad name, because I disagree with all bailouts. And the stimulus takes me back to the Obama stimulus, which was a dreadful thing. The raiding of the Treasury remember those shovel-ready jobs? Well, there was a shovel involved, but it was metaphoric. Thank you very much. This is a rescue. It is a rescue. There's a better argument that could be made for this spending than for bailouts, than for past stimuli, et cetera, et cetera. So is it a good idea? Or is it just further fiscal recklessness? I tend to be a fiscal hawk. I think spending is out of control. I think one of our worst problems is our $26 trillion in debt. That having been said, there are two things that make me not shut this down. Number one is the justification for it. This is not just another trillion or two of spending for the sake of spending. Government did this to people. Keep in mind that the government did the shutdown to you. So maybe government throwing you a couple of bucks so that you can eat but there might be a certain symmetry to that. And the other factor, I'm just going to tell you, and you can tell me if you weigh this one differently than I do. If this package doesn't happen, and it's kind of funny. President Trump obviously wants it. Some Republicans don't, and they're not wrong. But do we lose the Senate? If some high and mighty fiscal hawks say, "No, we don't have the money, we can't afford it," do we lose the Senate? And if that dampens enthusiasm for Republicans, do we get President Joe Biden? And if we get President Joe Biden, how fiscally happy are you then? How fiscally have we helped our budget by having a Democrat president, a Democrat House, and a Democrat Senate? You want to see raiding of the Treasury. You'll see it every day at lunch. So we have that. And various continuing thoughts of social strife and various other things going on and how to navigate those waters. So let's hop back in with some people, shall we? At 1-8-Prager-776, we are in the suburb of Phoenix, where my Texas Rangers, under normal times, have spring training. These are very abnormal times. That would be the great town of Surprise, Arizona. Hey, Dave, Mark Davison for Dennis. How are you?
I'm doing amazingly well. I'm blessed, but my government is broken.
Yeah, tell me.
I appreciate you taking my call, Mr. Davis. It's an honor to speak with you and your national audience.
You're very
before I get to my point, you can mark me down as a no on the relief package. I think we should stop spending money we don't have. But now for my topic.
Honestly, since we have the blessing of a little bit of time, can I do 60 seconds on that? Because that's a very principled view, and it's one that resonates with what I think. Does this? I know we don't have the money. Doesn't this strike you as a little bit different with millions in need? And if a lot of people stick to that principle, and I'm a fan of sticking to principle, what if you end up losing some Senate seats on it?
I've put a lot of thought into it. If it was a focused relief package similar to Eric Bolling's plan, where we gave out debit cards for specific industries that expired after 30 or 45 days, I'd be in favor of it. But blank checks to dead people.
Okay, that's a strong point. Strong point. Okay, go ahead. What was your first thought?
Yeah, I think we're in a full-blown civil war, and I'm ready to respond as needed. And the problem is the leftists, they show their true colors as Marxists now, deal in a three-legged disinformation campaign against the GOP. They focus on hypocrisy, lies, and projection. And unfortunately, it's been going on for 40 years, and the GOP has never woken up.
Okay, the Republican response to things, Republican the energy has been something that I've had some moments of complaint about for a long time. Is there something about the Trump era that seems, on some of these ways, we certainly seem more aggressive, we certainly seem more assertive, we certainly seem bolder, and one of the most important things we can do is point out the excesses and craziness of the left. Nobody's done that in a way that Trump has. So are you feeling a little bit better about that?
Well, I would offer, sir, that he's neither a Republican or a Democrat. He's anti-establishment. And I think almost all of the Democrats are establishment, and probably 40% of the Republicans in office are establishment actors. And we need to get rid of them, but not until November 4th.
I think that's a fair point, and you're right. The Trump is not a sort of a textbook party mold sort of politician. In fact, it's a very unpolitical kind of thing. But the names of the parties, Republican and Democrat, mean far less to me than the actual ideology. Conservatism is what means something to me. And from constitutionalist justices to lower taxes to regulatory reform to stronger borders to moving the Israeli embassy, et cetera, and there are a pretty good long list of conservative accomplishment. At least as a conservative, I feel good about that. What about you?
We've had some accomplishments, but again, as evidence since impeachment, and certainly since February, we have less than half a dozen GOP members that have stood up for the Republic.
Meaning what? In what way?
Hearing yesterday.
I mean,
they begged social media not to interfere in the election.
Oh, gotcha.
So it's been 4 years. Yep. Take some action.
Yep. I know. Yeah, it's and boy, Tucker, I may have to play a little bit of this because I'm a pretty big fan of Jim Jordan on most things. Tucker Carlson has Jim Jordan on, and a lot of Republicans are saying, boy, we got really tough on big tech. Tucker felt somewhat differently, and there may be something in there that resonates with you. You got to crawl before you walk, and sometimes things happen incrementally. And the first step toward holding big tech, Twitter, Facebook, especially those that purport to be platforms for a broad range of ideas. The first step in addressing their imbalance is identifying it, drilling it home, making sure people know it. And I feel like that's moving along at a brisk pace. I don't think too many people believe that Twitter and Facebook are equal opportunity banishers. Mark Davis for Dennis. Be right back.
The Dennis Prager Show, live from the Relief Factor Pain-Free Studio.
At every turn, it seems like there are more unanswered questions and few honest explanations about why so many of our liberties are under attack.
Why are so many bright people teaching me nonsense?
Some of the scenes of violent protests are just amazing. They're irrational evil.
Dennis Prager and Dr. Wayne Grudem confront the toughest social issues we face today, explained through historical, political, and never-before-told personal stories.
More rabbis, priests, and ministers fear the left than fear God.
When you stand before God at the final judgment, what will you say to him about how you voted on abortion laws?
Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
I would remind Mr. Jordan, Mr. Biggs, and Mr. Johnson to stop violating the rules of the committee, to stop violating the safety of the members of the committee, to stop holding themselves out as not caring by refusing to wear their masks.
Is it permissible to drink a sip
It
of
is
coffee?
not permissible.
Not to drink. We can't drink coffee in the room.
Now. Get ready to ask
Mr.
And I will.
But could I get you to respond to, I'm not even going to use an adjective. I'm just going to say yesterday's hearing on Capitol Hill.
What a colossal waste of time. Embarrassing. I think the average American watches what's going on there, and it's something that kind of is depressing, I think. You'd want to see Congress getting to the bottom of things. You have the Attorney General in front of you. You could be talking about border security. You could be talking about defeating MS-13, going after the heroin opioid abuse epidemic, maybe asking for updates on cleaning house. Let's find out about the progress of the Durham investigation and try to get more information out that's productive for the American public to form their own independent judgment on what's going on, to know government's working for them. But instead, that was an embarrassment, and the Attorney General was ready for it. I mean, he was
Yes.
every time someone tried throwing a punch at him, he just kind of bob out of the way and clock him right back.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
The president has, now wait for it, I know you're going to be shocked. The president's been called racist for not, in the view of Representative Jim Clyburn, who's a good friend of the late John Lewis, for not showing sufficient respect to him. Here's what Mr. Clyburn said about President Trump.
He has very low regards for people of color. It's just that simple.
This man has a very low regard toward people of color because the president has not gone to the memorial where John Lewis is and shown his respects. You know, he refused to attend Trump's inauguration. He refused to attend Trump's State of the Union addresses.
Well, you can call us on the phone. It's the Dennis Prager Show. 1-8-PRAGER-776. You can cry. You could cry to us, as Solomon Burke might want. Talk to us, celebrate things with us. We both celebrate and mourn the loss of a life like Herman Cain. And I said I'd have a word about the juxtaposition of these two things. It is the funeral day of John Lewis, about whom so much has been said, and rightfully so. The passing of Herman Cain. Their shared path is as African Americans. And they are generationally similar. Ideologically, could not be more different. And as Herman Cain brought his private sector experience into political conservatism, John Lewis took his civil rights activism that was so heroic and so vital in the 60s. And in fact, if we're looking for things to... Everybody goes looking for stuff to name after John Lewis now, which I totally understand. They were looking at maybe one of the House office buildings, but from Cannon to Longworth and Rayburn, those were named for a reason. Let's not go punting those. If there is anything that I think kind of cries out to be renamed for John Lewis, it's that bridge, the Edmund Pettus Bridge. I think that'd be awesome if you're asking me. But anyway. It's a complex historical chapter, because if you go back to what John Lewis is doing in the 50s and the 60s, and it's not like everything became instantly racially enlightened in the 70s or anything like that, but as we reached toward our racial enlightenment, and this is true of Jesse Jackson, and this is true of many others, the heroism and the boldness and the necessity, the moral and legal necessity of the civil rights battles, back when black folk were scarcely considered full citizens. As the 80s became the 90s, became the aughts, became the teens, but have now reached 2020, there are folks fighting battles as if it's still 1955. And obviously today's a day where we honor the incredible life story, the incredible contribution of John Lewis over his entire lifetime. And for liberal Americans, he remained a hero in the last decades of his life as a reliable voice for liberal Democrat policies. But that is where the Herman Cain, John Lewis sort of shared path of overcoming the slings and arrows of being of growing up black in the 50s, 40s, 50s, 60s. Their paths could not have diverged more. And so I would say that if you're really slicing and dicing here, that the heroism of John Lewis in the civil rights era is the part of that legacy that I will have lifelong admiration for. But it's what Herman Cain fought for until the day he died. The conservative policies that are the best path forward for black people, white people, Asian people, Hispanic people, all people, that are the cause of my affection for him. So, obviously, the loss of Herman Cain. We talked a little COVID payout, fiscal wisdom or lack of wisdom, and a number of other things going on. So let's get to it. 1-8-PRAGER-776. 1-8-PRAGER-776. We are in Minneapolis. And hi, Mark Davis in for Dennis. How are you?
Hi, Mark. How are you?
Good, thank you.
So I don't think that there should be another stimulus check. I'm very concerned about the debt and the fact that we're all going to have higher taxes to pay off this debt.
Yeah.
But I also know individuals. Can you hear me?
I sure can. You bet.
Okay. I also know individuals that have benefited from COVID. I have a friend of mine who says that her bonus check this year should be approximately 2.5 times what it normally is because their company is doing so well in COVID.
Well, if there's something, what does her company do?
Well, they sell food.
No, okay, but there's just something circumstantial. So is it a result of a government program or just some marketplace circumstance that has led? Good.
It's marketplace circumstance.
Yeah,
but my point is that not everyone has been financially devastated by COVID, yet there's others that have. And so we're giving money to people who don't need it, yet people that perhaps do need it are not receiving it.
That is a superb point, because anytime you just shower money out across the populace, are you going to hit some households that really, really need it? And do they vote? Yes and yes, which kind of makes me not want to thwart them right about now with an election we got to win in November. And I know that sounds like vote buying, et cetera, but actions have consequences. Sometimes inaction has consequences. And I'm not full bore saying we've got to do this or Trump loses. I mean, not at all. But I have a feeling some of the high-minded fiscal responsibility of we can't afford it, so no, could have damage in keeping the Senate in Republican hands. Maybe what this lady has mentioned, what a prior caller had talked about as well, if there's some way to do it, and means testing, targeting, something, because I've heard of my own show, the morning show that I host here in North Texas, that there are people who said, listen, I am at the income level that I didn't technically need the money, but I took it and I put it in my kid's college fund. And one gentleman told me some weeks ago, he said, there's some friends I know who make a lot more than we do, but their bills are a lot bigger than mine are. And they needed the money worse than we did. And they did not get one of the COVID relief checks. Oh, it's all going to be so arbitrary. It is all by definition going to be so very arbitrary. So I don't know what the magic solution is to that. I don't know. We are in Shingle Springs, California. Bruce, hey, Mark Davis, welcome in for Dennis. How are you?
Hey, Mark. I appreciate you taking my call. And
sure.
I listen to a number of conservative radio shows on occasion. My question is, I have two of them. One is, excuse me, we've never, there was a committee that was looking at the original whistleblower for the Russian scandal.
Yes.
And that was never revealed to the public. Is there a reason why?
Well, it kind of was. The world, we don't know it like we know our own name, that it was a kind of a mid-level toady named Eric Charamella. He matters somewhat less than a lot of the other bigger players who clearly spied on the Trump campaign, tormented the Trump campaign on a false premise, played around with FISA warrants, abused the legal system. There's a lot of accountability that cries out here, which is why there's a lot of attention being paid to, speaking of Attorney General Barr, what he and Attorney Mr. Durham might have in some report that may come out concurrent with or right before the election. Wouldn't that be nice? Because I think there are a lot of people who say you shouldn't be able to game the system for cheap political ends like that and get away with it. I'm one of those people, and I don't know what shape that accountability will take. It doesn't always wind up being iron bars, closed behind people. Hillary will never serve a day in jail, ever. But the political verdict is in. She will never be president, and that may be a worse punishment, and plus the knowledge of her mishandling of various sensitive documents and just the reputational damage. I don't know. Mark Davis in for Dennis. Stick around. I think that is a good idea. And it's like, what? I know.
Trending now on the Mike Gallagher Show.
Normal people don't think the New Jersey gym owner, the guy that owns Atlas Gym in New Jersey, should be arrested. They've been, and listen to what this guy said that might be a rallying cry for every American. On Tucker Carlson's show last night on Fox News, Tucker asked this guy, Ian Smith, why have you stood up to New Jersey Governor Murphy? Why have you stood up to those who say you're not allowed to be open? And incidentally, if New Jersey's doing so great, how could a gym still be forced to shut down? So when Tucker Carlson asked the gym owner why he has resisted the way he has, perhaps his answer will be etched in the hearts and minds of every American. Here's what he said.
Because I'm not afraid of tyrants, and no American should be, because we outnumber them greatly, and the only thing that they run off of is fear, which is why you see what you see in the media, where they're pumping fear into the coronavirus when what they should be pumping is solutions. They don't do that. They don't ever offer any solutions. It's wear a mask, shut up, and wait for a vaccine. That's not public health, and I won't subscribe to it.
Wow. Isn't that like salve on a wound? Isn't that like tonic?
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Do you think media is working to defeat Donald Trump? It's like every oar is polling to defeat Donald Trump in the elite media of D.C. and New York City.
Well, of course, and that's what I mean when the managerial elite, of which many members of the media are a part, they think they're so much smarter and virtuous than the American people, and they do. They think the rest of us are morons and can't see what's going on. I mean, I think that most members of the national media have always been center left, but they always tried to fake it, and pretend to be objective. They don't even bother to fake it anymore.
No, they don't. They really do not.
It's and I think it's hurt this country. I think it's hurt the credibility of this country.
Senator Kennedy, do you think
very little objectivity?
Do you think there is a great silent majority? Nixon used that term in 1970. Do you think there's another one out there watching riots in Portland, unrest in Seattle, spending everywhere, and not really feeling COVID is as urgent as the media is making it out to be, and it's certainly not Donald Trump's fault? Do you think there's a great silent majority?
I think there are tens of millions of Americans, Hugh, that just get up every day, go to work, obey the law, pay their taxes, try to do the right thing by their kids. They don't have time to go out and protest because, though it is their right, because they're too busy earning a living. And I think they're going to make a difference in this election. I do believe that.
Keep up with what's trending.
It's the Dennis Prager Show on this Thursday, 30th day of July, 2020. Dennis back tomorrow to wrap up the week and wrap up the month. Oh, my. What was that? It was July. That moved pretty briskly. All righty. Telephone number is 1-8-Prager-776. Mark Davis in for Dennis from 660 a.m. The Answer, Dallas, Fort Worth. You can follow me on Twitter at Mark Davis, M-A-R-K Davis. Appreciate that. And we appreciate your calls. Let's dive back in. We're in Highland Park, Illinois. Susan, hi. Mark Davis in for Dennis. Happy Thursday. How are you?
Hi, Mark. I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. Thank you.
So, in my purview, was raised under the big sky, Ronald Reagan era. I had a mother, a very conservative woman who taught us all the bad things about the Great Society and not to do welfare.
Mm-hmm.
Yet, I think we're challenged that as the incumbent position that Trump's trying to hold on to and all the rest of the senators and congresspeople, if we fail to deliver another round of stimulus, we will fail to get reelected because this will be blown back, I truly believe, in spades in his direction. Just not a good political move. From a practical standpoint, I see all the abuse around me. I happen to live in a privileged suburb, and we have shopping centers in the area that are attracting a lot of outsiders, which is fine. But we're noticing the shopkeepers are telling me they're coming in with their stimulus money to buy things that they can't really afford. And that, to me, hurts me to see that people, if they're going through this pandemic, don't have the sensibility to think this could go on a lot longer.
I know.
So you're never going to teach the masses unless they're taught early and at home and through values and how to save your money. So we're kind of screwed.
Now, Susan, you are the perfect call for this because you have the proper conservative fiscal responsibility urge, and yet the pragmatic crystal ball that says we can stand on this principle, we can die on this hill, but we might literally die, politically speaking, in losing the Senate and maybe even the presidency if Democrats are able to spend every day through August, September, October saying those demonic Republicans, they wanted you to starve. And in an inattentive country with short attention spans, that might be how you lose.
It's marketing, and it's the sad part of it. You have to almost say, okay, we've got to set it aside and move forward. But the other side is, too, I don't like the precedent it sets for the whole movement towards socialism. These people who are getting checks kind of like staying at home, not going to work, and then that precedent is something that it's hard to take it away once you've gone down that path. I'm not for not giving people who need things what they need, the basics.
Yeah.
Get my rent paid. I got my job taken away because, Governor Pritzker locked us down for way too long. And those things, are natural consequences that I see the need, but you can't when you spray money around and pray it lands in the right.
No, exactly. And then once it lands, pray that the people who receive it have the wisdom to spend it wisely. Susan, thank you. Boy, there's 3 layers of wisdom there. So just thank you. How in the world do you target it? First of all, if you're wondering who's been getting the checks so far and who will get them moving forward, it's individuals who earn a gross adjusted income of up to $75,000. Couples earning $150 would get the full $1,200 or $2,400 if it's a couple. And then but then that's not a severe cut at that point. For higher earners, the check would be reduced by $5 for every $100 in income. Oh my gosh. And it would phase out entirely at $99,000 for an individual or $198,000 for dual earners. So how do those strike you? And if it occurs to, and listen, I know, if somebody's driving around, making $35,000, thinking $75,000, I know, and that's not a bad point. And a couple making $150, that could be somebody might be making $110 and somebody making $40, and they're getting a stimulus check. I know. Then target it for me. Find a way to target it. There are those who have said that maybe we're coming at it the wrong way. That maybe there is something in terms of rent abatement, or that's you just find some way to have people live rent free for a while, and then help out the landlords. Throw the money at some landlords who are somehow, through some hook or crook, no longer charging rent to people for 4 months. Is there some workaround there? Mark Davison for Dennis Prager. Stick around. Thursday show in progress.
The Dennis Prager Show, live from the Relief Factor Pain-Free Studio. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
How are you getting ready for the election in 96 days?
Voter registration. The most important thing that if we want to re-elect Donald Trump, we need to register new voters and specifically target states like the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, specifically Arizona, Maine, North Carolina, Iowa, Colorado, because President Trump needs a Senate that he can work with. And if and when Supreme Court justice seats come up, we need to be able to replace those seats respectfully with a Senate that will confirm his appointments.
So how are you doing that? How are you helping register voters?
Today, I just drove to a mom and her daughter in Centerville, Virginia. She said, Scott, I need to get registered for my baby. Drove to her house, filled out the form, did it myself. Last night, I was in Warrenton, Virginia, Fauquier County, registered 3 new women for Trump last night. The voters are out there. 120 million people did not vote in 2016. 120 million people. I don't see that as a bad thing. I see that as opportunity that we need to get those voters for Donald Trump.
So if somebody's listening to this right now and they want to help register voters, what do they do?
Okay, so first thing, I want you to slide into my DMs on Twitter. At Scott Pressler. There's only one S in Pressler.
Oh, you've opened it right out there.
I've created a guide, guys, for all 50 states. All 50 states. I don't care if you're in Hawaii, California, Texas. I will teach you how to register new voters. It's simple, it's fun, it's easy, and it's how we elect Trump.
Wow. Did you hear him? You have no excuse now. He's done it for you. The homework has been done. It's easier than cleaning up Baltimore. You can register your neighbors.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
If Joe Biden wins, how significantly changed will America be than if Donald Trump is reelected?
Massively and terrifyingly, for a couple of reasons. Number one, if Joe Biden wins, the odds are pretty high that there's also a Democratic Senate. There's a narrow window where Biden wins and Republicans keep the Senate, but in all likelihood, the two are going to be closely tied together. It means in the Senate, the Senate will end the filibuster if the Democrats take the majority, which means they will be able to pass anything they want with just 50 votes. We'll see massive tax increases, not just the tax cuts repealed, but a massive increase in taxes, a gallop towards socialized medicine, a gallop towards socialism generally. They'll also do something structurally. If Democrats win in November, within the first 6 months of next year, we'll see 2 new states in the Union. They will try to admit both the District of Columbia and Puerto Rico, and their reason is simple and crass. It's power. That would produce, in all likelihood, 4 new Democratic senators. So if the Democrats start in January with 51 senators, they could very well end the summer with 55. That is a dangerous agenda, and they will also try to pack the courts, depending on if they have the votes. What does that mean? That means something like increasing the Supreme Court from 9 votes to 15 votes, which would be putting 6 radical leftists on the courts immediately.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
I believe you are correct.
What do I think Donald Trump will do for my people?
No doubt.
Well, what Donald Trump will do for the country is not to raise taxes on job creators. What Donald Trump will do for the country is to stop this march towards single payer.
Yeah, I don't know what it would be.
What Donald Trump will do for the country is
It's the Thursday Dennis Prager Show. Guest hosted today by your Texas buddy, Mark Davis at 660 AM. The Answer. Let's plow back into some more calls. And the telephone number, of course, is 1-8-PRAGER-776. And we are in Phoenix. Charles, Mark Davis in for Dennis. Welcome. Happy Thursday. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Great. Thank you.
My idea for this, instead of just printing out tons of money and incentivizing people not to work, what if we just opened up the country with the current, social distancing, masks and whatnot,
I know,
and provided people with a tax holiday? That way they're making their own money and keeping all of it rather than just giving people essentially free money.
You've identified at a basic truth, Charles. Thanks. And that is that no string of stimuli, no endless spigot of rescue money from an already empty federal treasury will make this better. These are all kicking the can down the road. They're all stop gaps. They're all life preserver after life preserver. There's only one thing that will heal our country fiscally, and that is commerce. It is businesses open, doing what they do, people buying things, people selling things, people living their lives. That is the only path to healing. So, what does that mean? Does it mean pretend there's no virus and just, ding dong, let's go? Well, that's not smart. So what we do need to do is continue to be as observant as we can about the kind of guidelines that will help us get through this more quickly. And then once we're through it, we're through it. But along that path, who wants to convene the panel of when we're through it? When are we done? What's the definition of victory? It's like the war on terror. What does it look like? And pardon that comparison, but I think I kind of mean it. Because there'll be no signing ceremony on the USS Missouri where we declare victory over COVID-19. All we can do is chase it into relative obscurity. And is it only a vaccine that can do that? Or is it only certain treatments that can do that? I don't know. I have a thought banging around in my head. I'll share it with you. And that is this. The cases will, when I say the cases will continue to mount, and I don't mean rise, cases may flatten. I hope they do. The death rate should continue to fall as we get better at treating it, which we already are. And we may get to a point, I'm kind of already there, at which we say, you know what? This virus is going to do what it's going to do. We as individuals should socially distance, wash our hands like we all have OCD, wear masks if we're going to be around strangers in close proximity, and with those things in our heads, get on out there. Open your business, open your school, live your life, take care of the sick, trust the healthy, hope for the best, drop to your knees in prayer, and live our lives. Because this thing of sitting here waiting for 2 or 3 weeks of decline in cases, that does not work. Because it may not happen. How many kids' schoolings, plural, is that even a word? How many kids' educational fates are you willing to dash against the rocks while some teachers' union waits for some assurance that they are walking into a COVID-free environment? Guess what? There ain't no COVID-free environment. And I love teachers. Teachers are heroes to me. But what a bad look it is for some of these teachers' unions before we even get to their various demands. Like, what is the LA Teachers Union that says one of their demands for going back to school is defund the police? Hey, way to stay on topic, guys. Appreciate that. But there are all kinds of professions where conducting life, doing what you have to do, involves a certain level of risk. Teaching is one of them. And listen, if you're a 50-pound overweight diabetic 71-year-old, maybe you don't need to go back to the classroom. And everyone will understand if you don't. But have a healthy 35-year-old sit there and tell me that going back into the classroom is a death sentence. I'm sorry, that's just stupid. Teachers are some of our most valued, essential workers. And every once in a while, there will come a time when things are going to be asked of you as a teacher. This is one of those times. All right, let's see here. We are in Mineola, Texas. Hey, Charles. Mark Davison for Dennis. How are you?
Hi, Mark. Listened to you earlier this morning on my way to work at Sulphur Springs Hospital. So
I appreciate that. Thank you, sir.
I had a couple things that I told your screener. One, a friend of mine sent me an ad, actually, by Joe Biden that is promoting and supporting the Muslim movement in the country.
In what way?
And, sir?
In what way? I mean, what is it specifically say?
I wish I could find a way to do it. He just says, basically, his administration is going to be catering to it, to Islam, that he wants more teaching in the
well,
community.
that actually does sound familiar because he was at a Muslim voters summit and had a quote, "I wish we taught more in our schools about the Islamic faith." That wouldn't be an ad. It would be just him on the campaign trail saying something.
No, this is an actual ad.
Yeah, I'd love to see that.
Over here.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah,
I mean, it would not be. It would not be outlandish. It would not be outlandish. It would not be. I mean, there's going to be. Listen, are there conservative Muslims? Of course there are. There are Muslim folks who are going to vote for Trump? Of course there will. But by and large, I think that'll be a Democrat voter base, and for a Democrat candidate to pander in that way, not shocking. Got about 45 seconds. Was there something else?
Yeah, the other was something I noticed, and I don't see how it would be true, that supposedly Trump has mentioned, President Trump, has mentioned moving back the voting from November 3rd.
Yeah, he had a tweet. He had a tweet this morning that very cryptically asked, "Do we need to delay the election till we can all vote safely and securely?" That simply will not happen for reasons I will describe right after this break. It's just not going to happen. That election will be on the 3rd of November. Tell you why next. Mark Davison for Dennis.
The Dennis Prager Show, live from the Relief Factor Pain-Free Studio.
At every turn, it seems like there are more unanswered questions and few honest explanations about why so many of our liberties are under attack.
Why are so many bright people teaching me nonsense?
Some of the scenes of violent protests are just amazing. They're irrational evil.
Dennis Prager and Dr. Wayne Grudem confront the toughest social issues we face today, explained through historical, political, and never-before-told personal stories.
More rabbis, priests, and ministers fear the left and fear God.
When you stand before God at the final judgment, what will you say to him about how you voted on abortion laws?
Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
I would remind Mr. Jordan, Mr. Biggs, and Mr. Johnson to stop violating the rules of the committee, to stop violating the safety of the members of the committee, to stop holding themselves out as not caring by refusing to wear their masks.
Can we get the picture? Is it permissible to drink a sip of coffee?
It is not permissible.
Not to drink. We can't drink coffee in the room now. Get ready to ask questions. And I will. Unbelievable.
But could I get you to respond to, I'm not even going to use an adjective. I'm just going to say yesterday's hearing on Capitol Hill.
What a colossal waste of time. Embarrassing. I think the average American watches what's going on there, and it's something that kind of is depressing, I think. You'd want to see Congress getting to the bottom of things. You have the Attorney General in front of you. You could be talking about border security. You could be talking about defeating MS-13, going after the heroin opioid abuse epidemic, maybe asking for updates on cleaning house. Let's find out about the progress of the Durham investigation and try to get more information out that's productive for the American public to form their own independent judgment on what's going on, to know government's working for them. But instead, that was an embarrassment, and the Attorney General was ready for it. I mean, he was
Yes.
every time someone tried throwing a punch at him, he just kind of bob out of the way and clock him right back.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
The president has, now wait for it, I know you're going to be shocked. The president's been called racist for not, in the view of Representative Jim Clyburn, who's a good friend of the late John Lewis, for not showing sufficient respect to him. Here's what Mr. Clyburn said about President Trump.
He has very low regard
herself at a
for
Trump
people
rally.
of color.
And how did she
It's
react?
just that.
One of the most powerful videos we've ever put out. The latest video from Prager University. See it at prageru.com, where we teach what isn't taught.
Thank you, Dennis. And thank you, Dennis, for the opportunity to hang here with the audience here on this Thursday. Dennis is back tomorrow for the final day of the work week for most. Final day of July for everybody. Holy cow. So let's stipulate that the virus has made financial markets unpredictable, you think? And it has not been a smooth ride for mortgage rates either. Andrew and Todd, you know them. Andrew and Todd are here to help you manage market volatility, help you get into a better financial situation. A lot of major banks and lenders are pushing back on loans and suspending refi applications. Not at Andrew and Todd's world at Sierra Pacific Mortgage. They are clocked in, working remotely, ready to advise you on what's best for your situation. No cut and paste, one size fits all. They talk to you and talk about what's best for you. The decline in rates is fueling a boom in refinancing. So if you're considering the whole refi route, maybe a new purchase, a cash out, refi, reverse mortgage, they know about all of these things at andrewandtodd.com. Todd with two D's, andrewandtodd.com. Let these fine gentlemen help you navigate these challenging times. Got a phone number too. Andrew and Todd's phone number is 888-888-1172. 888-888-1172 or andrewandtodd.com. Okay, the election's November 3rd. It ain't moving. I think sometimes the president has some fun with us. and I'm having fun every day. He can't do it unilaterally. Is it possible between Congress and the states that elections can get moved? Yep. Is that even workable? Nope. Here's why. How long are you going to move it? Because ostensibly, what is it for? Is it so that maybe we can feel a little bit better about the virus? Is it so that we can flatten some more curves and get some better case rates and hospitalization? Well, how long have we got to wait? The answer is not long, because along comes the pesky Constitution and the 20th Amendment, which says the president's term will end. It just will at noon on the 20th of January. That's it. And as far as senators, members of the House, those terms do end, period, noon, January 3rd. That's it. No matter what we do, no matter, we take the election, move the thing to April. And then, oh, that's great. Got no president, no members of the House. Wait a minute. This may be a great idea. Not kidding. Because I'm looking to keep this president. I'm looking to turn the House Republican. The only people who'd still be in office are like the 65 senators who are not up for re-election. The election is not going to move. It can't. The Constitution brings those terms of office to a definite end. President on January 20th. And many senators and everybody in the House on January 3rd. So, November 3rd, lock it in. Mark Davison for Dennis. And we got your calls locked in, ready to go in our next hour. Sit tight.
The Dennis Prager Show, live from the Relief Factor Pain-Free Studio.
See.
Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
I would remind Mr. Jordan, Mr. Biggs, and Mr. Johnson to stop violating the rules of the committee, to stop violating the safety of the members of the committee, to stop holding themselves out as not caring by refusing to wear their masks.
Can we get the picture? Is it permissible to drink a sip
It
of
is
coffee?
not permissible.
Not to drink. We can't drink coffee in the room now. I'm getting ready to ask questions. And I will.
But could I get you to respond to, I'm not even going to use an adjective. I'm just going to say yesterday's hearing on Capitol Hill.
What a colossal waste of time. Embarrassing. I think the average American watches what's going on there, and it's something that kind of is depressing. I think you'd want to see Congress getting to the bottom of things. You have the Attorney General in front of you. You could be talking about border security. You could be talking about defeating MS-13, going after the heroin opioid abuse epidemic, maybe asking for updates on cleaning house. Let's find out about the progress of the Durham investigation and try to get more information out that's productive for the American public to form their own independent judgment on what's going on, to know government's working for them. But instead, that was an embarrassment, and the Attorney General was ready for it. I mean, he was
Yes.
every time someone tried throwing a punch at him, he just kind of bob out of the way and clock him right back.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
The president has, now wait for it, I know you're going to be shocked. The president's been called racist for not, in the view of Representative Jim Clyburn, who's a good friend of the late John Lewis, for not showing sufficient respect to him. Here's what Mr. Clyburn said about President Trump.
He has very low regards for people of color. It's just that simple.
This man has a very low regard toward people of color because the president has not gone to the memorial where John Lewis is and shown his respects. You know, he refused to attend Trump's inauguration. He refused to attend Trump's State of the Union addresses, at least up until then. He boycotted the 2017 opening of a civil rights museum in Mississippi that Trump attended because Trump was attending it. He encouraged the impeachment. He called him a racist. Quote, "We need a president, a leader of the national government who's not a racist. Trump is a racist, honestly. So President Trump does not show somebody sufficient respect who called him a racist and didn't come to his inauguration and skipped his State of the Union addresses. And Trump's supposed to go to his show sufficient respect. By the way, he tweeted. President Donald Trump posted a tweet offering prayers of condolence on the passing of Representative John Lewis Saturday afternoon. Representative Lewis, the civil rights icon. Even Don Lemon says, I don't even think Representative Lewis would have wanted him to come. Now, you think his family wanted Trump to come? I'm just asking. Trump shows up, then what?
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Mike Gallagher Show.
And again, I was riveted by the Detroit police chief, James Craig, who joined Tucker Carlson last night, because Tucker said to this chief, thank goodness it's not happening in Detroit the way it's happening in Los Angeles, New York, Chicago, Baltimore, Portland, Seattle. Why isn't it happening in your city, Chief Craig? Here's what he said.
One thing I learned from my time in Los Angeles, we don't retreat here in Detroit. We're just not going to do it. You saw the images, Tucker, of streets where there was lawlessness, looting, burning, no sight of police officers. We weren't giving up ground to the radicals. We just didn't do it.
You don't hear that kind of language from Democrat leaders, do you? You're not hearing that from the mayor of Seattle or Portland or Minneapolis. You're not hearing this from a lot of Democrat-run cities. It was just, let's listen to part 2 of this. Again, this is the Detroit police chief, James Craig, with Tucker Carlson tonight.
Detroiters are fed up with these radical protests. I'm not talking about the peaceful protesters. I'm talking about that core group. These misguided radicals that have tried to incite violence in our city. They said, we're not going to put up with it. And so we got a couple of things. We got a great police department, great leadership, but we have a community that stands with us and by us and said enough is enough.
That's the police chief of Detroit, Michigan. What do you make of that? What do you make of the failure of these Democrat mayors and the Democratic Party, for that matter, to fail to distinguish between a peaceful protest, an anguished response to George Floyd's death, and the violence and destruction we're seeing?
Keep Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
Yeah, my goodness, what has happened to the media? We know the New York Times died. It was buried. But it seems like most of what was once journalism is now dead. That's a pretty dramatic thing. In the history books,
yes,
future, this will be written about as a major inflection point in the course of this republic.
Well, it's sad that the media is not even trying to be objective anymore. They're not trying to be journalists. You know, just a few years ago, reporters used to argue, I don't know, we're not biased. Have you noticed nobody argues that anymore? They have accepted their roles. You know, this week we saw Barry
This has a very, very nice feel, Sean. Thank you. Aretha covering Simon and Garfunkel's Bridge Over Troubled Water. The visual imagery still in progress at the funeral of John Lewis. And the news this morning of the passing of Herman Cain. They had race in common. They had toughness in common. They had determination in common. Ideology? Not so much. So, and it's funny because in sort of weaving these legacies, not that they need to be woven together, just I guess in today's news storyline, I would offer the following, and then we'll hop back to your calls where we're talking about everything, but from the savaging of Bill Barr, the House of Representatives, to the COVID payout arguments pro and con, to any one of a number of things. If you want to dork out on the world of space exploration, we launched the Perseverance rover to Mars this morning, and thoroughly enjoyed watching that launch. And anything else that you might want to do in this final hour of the Thursday Dennis Prager Show. Dennis is back tomorrow. I'm Mark Davis from 660 AM The Answer in Dallas-Fort Worth. That's what all the signs say behind my head that you can see here if you're watching on DennisPrager.com or Town Hall TV. And we are here in North Texas, and we're pretty stoked because it's not going to be 147 degrees for the next couple of days. Kind of wild. We don't know what's going on. We are so glad that you are here, and we appreciate it. Follow me on Twitter at Mark Davis, obviously at Dennis Prager, PragerU for all the Prager University things where they teach what is not taught, and we appreciate that. And so let's just dive back in. I got 14 things left in my head for this hour. Let's see if I can intersperse them with some things that you are thinking. 1-8-Prager-776, 1-8-Prager-776, as we are in Pasadena. Dan, hey, Mark Davis in for Dennis. How are you? Hey, Dan.
Hey, Mark. Love having you as guest host for Dennis. You always do an outstanding job.
I appreciate it.
So thank you for what you do for us.
My pleasure.
Can you hear me?
I sure can.
Can you hear me?
I can. And so I can hear you. So, Alrighty, let's go to somebody else and maybe we'll actually hear each other. It will be awesome. We are in Richmond, Virginia. Billy. Mark Davison for Dennis. How are you?
Hey, Mr. Davis. How you doing today?
I am good. Thank you.
So I think we've been hearing a lot about shifts in the Senate, but I don't want to lose focus on the fact that, we have an election coming up in just a little over 3 months now. But, before going into that, I just, I wonder if you and Mr. Prager ever had the chance to talk
Oh, I'm sorry. Something went south there. We're in Buffalo. John. Hey, Mark Davis, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Mark, not Dennis, for taking my call.
My pleasure. Thank you. How do we clear that up? Thanks a lot.
Yeah, I just the thing about the next stimulus is it doesn't account for people who have comorbidities and the fact that they can't go back to work. I get that we messed up the first time around and paying people more than they would have got if they actually went back to work.
Yeah.
But nothing is there to accommodate the people with comorbidity problems.
I know, and that's good. I'm sorry, because and you focused again on the note. I think people they wish we had some method of targeting where we weren't just like flying a helicopter over people at certain income levels and dumping a bunch of taxpayer money on them. I know that listen, everybody quote unquote can use it, but focusing on need is just really hard. There are a lot of people who really, really need it. I mean, to make that rent, to feed their families, and others not so much. So I don't know. Go ahead and finish up. Go ahead.
Yeah, and secondly, this business with hydrochloroquine.
Yes, sir.
All the studies say that if you when you first get this virus, if you get on the hydrochloroquine, you will get better.
Well, that's actually not true. Careful. Let's not overstate it. Hydroxychloroquine has had some really promising results with some doctors who have used it. So the people who have bashed it are obviously doing it because they hate Trump. There's some people who are suggesting it's a magical cure, and I don't know what motivates that. But the good news is that somewhere in between there is a treatment that may have some promise, and that doctors who are willing to prescribe it and patients who are willing to take it should be able to do so without obstruction from some and mockery from others.
And then now, does Trump's Trump thing he signed this? I don't think you can. How does it apply with the 44 states that won't let you prescribe hydrochloroquine when you're first diagnosed?
Well, I don't know if there are 44 states that won't let you. I'm a big fan of having government get as from Obamacare to Hillary care. Big fan of government getting out of the way of the relationship between doctors and patients. Only trouble ensues when government sticks its big ham-fisted approach into the relationship between doctors and patients. There are doctors who are more than willing to prescribe hydroxychloroquine. And bless the lady's heart, her name escapes me. I enjoyed that gathering of the doctors on the Supreme Court steps as much as anybody, and the lady from Nigeria. She had that incredible likability and energy, and talked about this. And then we found out about the alien DNA and the demon sperm. Okay, that doesn't make her wrong about hydroxychloroquine. Might make her Dr. Stella Emanuel. Interesting lady. Interesting lady. It doesn't make her wrong about hydroxychloroquine. It makes her maybe a less than perfect messenger for its benefits. There are plenty of doctors without any peculiar ancillary beliefs who are big fans of hydroxychloroquine. Others, not so much. Okay, that's called the free marketplace. There are a lot of patients who maybe have tested positive who want to take it. There's some who don't want to take it. Okay, that's the marketplace. There's some folks who want to take it, as it's called, prophylactically, which will make your 12-year-old laugh. They want to take it as a preventive. And is there some value to that? Maybe. Now, are there all kinds of thousands upon thousands of double-blind stories and certified peer-reviewed things about hydroxychloroquine? No, there's not yet, which means that it falls under the category of anecdotal, which doesn't mean spotty. It doesn't mean unreliable. It just means anecdotal, meaning, hey, we've had some situations where this happened and people got better. And so is that a guarantee that you will? Nope. But if you want to take it and have a doctor wants to prescribe it, knock yourself out. That sounds like liberty to me. We're in Valparaiso, Indiana. Carolyn, hey, Mark Davison for Dennis. How are you?
Hi, good, Den. Good, Mark. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
I just wanted to mention, we all know the proof is in now, what the Obama administration officials have done, to try and take down our president when he was running, as well as now while he's been in office. And I heard a couple things the last 2 days that have me really concerned, because I've felt for the last month or so this information from the Durham report needs to get out now because it's so important for this election coming up. I heard Louis Gomar say yesterday that people are concerned now that Durham is not going to release the information because he's afraid to affect the election.
I know. Spare me these people who sit on various truths. I know.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, spare me these people who avoid telling us the truth because of the calendar. There's never a bad time to tell the truth.
Exactly.
So I know. So my all I would tell Mr. Durham is if it's time, it's time. If it takes you till past the election, great. If it doesn't, do it now or do it November 2nd or October 5th or whatever. Here's the thing I want everybody to absorb, and I don't want to be Debbie Downer. The notion that the Durham report will somehow be some ender for Biden. No, we got him now. Please note well the Mark Davis measure of political damage. Here's how it goes. The Mark Davis measure of political damage is, does it lose you supporters? That's it. Does it lose you supporters? Are there Biden voters who go, yeah, Joe, we love you, Joe, can't wait to vote for Joe? And then the Durham report comes out showing all kinds of Obama-era complicity in going after the Trump campaign. Are they going to go, oh, I'm out, can't vote for Joe? No. Will it lose you some independence? Maybe. I mean, there will be. But this notion that this is an ender when that comes out, because the people who care are Trump voters already. Be right back. All righty.
At every turn, it seems like there are more unanswered questions and few honest explanations about why so many of our liberties are under attack.
Why are so many bright people teaching me nonsense?
Some of the scenes of violent protests are just amazing. They're irrational evil.
Dennis Prager and Dr. Wayne Grudem confront the toughest social issues we face today, explained through historical, political, and never-before-told personal stories.
More rabbis, priests, and ministers fear the left than fear God.
When you stand before God at the final judgment, what will you say to him about how you voted on abortion laws?
Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
I would remind Mr. Jordan, Mr. Biggs, and Mr. Johnson to stop violating the rules of the committee, to stop violating the safety of the members of the committee, to stop holding themselves out as not caring by refusing to wear their masks.
Can we get the picture? Is it permissible to drink a sip of coffee?
It is not permissible.
Not to drink. We can't drink coffee in the room now. I'm getting ready to ask questions. And I will.
But could I get you to respond to, I'm not even going to use an adjective. I'm just going to say yesterday's hearing on Capitol Hill.
What a colossal waste of time. Embarrassing. I think the average American watches what's going on there, and it's something that kind of is depressing, I think. You'd want to see Congress getting to the bottom of things. You have the Attorney General in front of you. You could be talking about border security. You could be talking about defeating MS-13, going after the heroin opioid abuse epidemic, maybe asking for updates on cleaning house. Let's find out about the progress of the Durham investigation and try to get more information out that's productive for the American public to form their own independent judgment on what's going on, to know government's working for them. But instead, that was an embarrassment, and the Attorney General was ready for it. I mean, he was
yes.
every time someone tried throwing a punch at him, he just kind of bob out of the way and clock him right back.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
The president has, now wait for it, I know you're going to be shocked. The president's been called racist for not, in the view of Representative Jim Clyburn, who's a good friend of the late John Lewis, for not showing sufficient respect to him. Here's what Mr. Clyburn said about President Trump.
He has very low regards for people of color. It's just that simple.
This man has a very low regard toward people of color because the president has not gone to the memorial where John Lewis is and shown his respects. You know, he refused to attend Trump's inauguration. He refused to attend Trump's State of the Union addresses, at least up until then. He boycotted the 2017 opening of a civil rights museum in Mississippi that Trump attended.
So sign up today, go to youtube.com, type in Dennis Prager channel, and click subscribe. Don't forget to click the bell icon so you'll be notified every time we put up a new clip.
That reminder seems like a good idea to remind everybody of the importance of keeping big tech, your Googles, your Facebooks, your YouTubes, keeping them honest. You know, I will never look for government to go policing through these private enclaves, but as long as the YouTubes and the Facebooks and the Twitters are going to offer themselves up as an arena for open debate and for freedom of expression, you just can't have folks getting shut down like they seem to do on a whim. Mark Davison for Dennis just today. Dennis is back tomorrow. Happy Thursday to you. Follow me on Twitter at Mark Davis. I'm the Happy Morning host at 6:60 a.m. The Answer in Dallas, Fort Worth. Let's see where you are and what is on all y'all's minds. At Dennis Prager, of course, for the Dennis Twitter feed, and DennisPrager.com for all things Dennis related. All righty, let us hop back into your thoughts. 1-8-Prager-776 as we go to Waymart, Pennsylvania. And that is you, Frank. Welcome. How are you, sir? Mark Davison for Dennis. Welcome.
Hello, Mark. How are you doing today?
I'm good.
I have a question about the vaccines that are going to be coming up for this COVID-19. Today, there was a post on Facebook that my wife had seen that in Oklahoma, the entire state was going to be mandated to take this COVID-19 vaccine and have some kind of bracelet that they had to wear. And my question is does a state government or federal government have the right to mandate an entire state or the entire country to take a COVID-19 vaccine?
Yeah. All right. Let's do this in stages. Number one, the notion of some mandatory thing coming in Oklahoma is total fake news. Get ready for a whole lot of that as everybody freaks out about the vaccine. Now, here's something that you can react to. Is there a constitutional basis for government compelling a vaccine? That answer is yes. And it goes back to a 1905 case called Jacobson versus Massachusetts. It was about the authority of states to enforce compulsory vaccination laws. There's nothing that's come along to overturn that. This was an outbreak of smallpox in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And they said, guess what? Everybody's going to get a shot. And they did it. Now, has it been done rampantly since? No. If they wanted to, could they? It appears yes. Is there a likelihood, is there a reason to think that once we get a COVID vaccine, it will somehow become mandatory? I sure don't see it. I really don't. I don't think it politically works real well for people right now in any state, especially as a vaccine rolls out. I think there will be a lot of people who actually want to take it. There will also be a lot of people who don't want to for whatever reason. And I think the marketplace is probably going to play out there. So it's kind of a disturbing mixed or a frustrating mixed message. Is there a reason to believe that a mandatory COVID-19 vaccine is coming down the pipeline? No. But if it did somewhere, is there a constitutional basis, a court ruling basis for mandatory vaccines? Yep. And that's very unsettling to me. I am not a fan. And I know the argument is overwhelming public interest in making sure that diseases don't spread. No, my body is my temple, and I will not have it violated.
Absolutely. And considering some of these companies, Bill Gates and Johnson & Johnson, who, have given vaccines and had terrible results, people get sick and dying from vaccines, I would never trust anyone to give me a vaccine, especially one that had some type of genetic, something that's going to modify my DNA. Or
let's not write a bad science fiction novel. Right now, there are a lot of people working on a vaccine. There's no reason to believe that anything necessarily sinister lies behind that. And so, if it comes out, you can take a look at this, and if you want it, get it, and if you don't.
Well, I hope it ends up that way. I have
every reason to think it will. And what I really hope happens is I hope it works. I hope it works. Until then, though, I don't think this is going to happen next week or even next month. It certainly has been fast-tracked. We've leapt over all kinds of obstacles that it used to take us years to come up with something. This is another regulatory reform issue I think the Trump administration can use to its benefit. I think we're going to have to reach a point where we're not as spooked by cases. And the media culture wants you to be spooked by cases. Another grim milestone. At some point, it's like the odometer on your car. You're going to hit X number. And then you're going to hit Y number and Z number that are higher than that. Another grim milestone. At some point, we're just going to have to realize this virus is going to do what it's going to do. And people are going to do what we're going to do. And we should be smart and safe. Masks, yes. Mask mandates, no. Mask police, no. Distancing, yes. Hand washing, yes. Huge gatherings of people, probably not smart. All of these things. And I think that's a lot of why the death rate's going down and our ability to treat it is getting better. And so I think there is good news, and the media do not want you to feel good news. The Democrat Party does not want you to feel hope. They want you miserable. They want your school shut down. They want your job shut down. They want you in hell so that you'll be so filled with angst and despair that come November 3rd, you'll just go, we got to change presidents. That's what they want. So, meanwhile, out in the real world, whom do you trust? It seems that we are just in a crowd of people who, containing some subsets. There are people who do not want it to get better. And there are other people who want to pretend like it already is. Neither is wise. Just let the game come to you. Be smart. Fight for your health and your liberty at the same time. They're not mutually exclusive. And pray every day for the people who are working hard to try to find us some treatments that work and a vaccine that works, and doctors and frontline workers caring for folks. I get to come into a radio station every day, and I'm just so very, very blessed. I know some folks who have had it, and they're fine now. That tends to be the way it usually goes. But I think about the ways in which life has been shut down. I hear all the time about people who have elderly relatives, and they are in some facility or another, and you've scarcely seen them, or there are folks I know who are going through some big health issues with some long hospitalizations that lie ahead. So while we have God on our mind, which should be 24/7, let us ask him for health and wisdom and guidance and patience and his loving and comforting touch onto everybody whose life is made more challenging by this virus, either by having it or having a job or a school or something shut down because of it. Mark Davison for Dennis Prager. Be right back.
The Dennis Prager Show, live from the Relief Factor Pain-Free Studio. Trending now on the Mike Gallagher Show.
And again, I was riveted by the Detroit police chief, James Craig, who joined Tucker Carlson last night, because Tucker said to this chief, thank goodness it's not happening in Detroit the way it's happening in Los Angeles, New York, Chicago, Baltimore, Portland, Seattle. Why isn't it happening in your city, Chief Craig? Here's what he said.
One thing I learned from my time in Los Angeles, we don't retreat here in Detroit. We're just not going to do it. You saw the images, Tucker, of streets where there was lawlessness, looting, burning, no sight of police officers. We weren't giving up ground to the radicals. We just didn't do it.
You don't hear that kind of language from Democrat leaders, do you? You're not hearing that from the mayor of Seattle or Portland or Minneapolis. You're not hearing this from a lot of Democrat-run cities. It was just, let's listen to part 2 of this. Again, this is the Detroit police chief, James Craig, with Tucker Carlson tonight.
Detroiters are fed up with these radical protests. I'm not talking about the peaceful protesters. I'm talking about that core group. These misguided radicals that have tried to incite violence in our city. They said, we're not going to put up with it. And so we got a couple of things. We got a great police department, great leadership, but we have a community that stands with us and by us and said enough is enough.
That's the police chief of Detroit, Michigan. What do you make of that? What do you make of the failure of these Democrat mayors and the Democratic Party, for that matter, to fail to distinguish between a peaceful protest, an anguished response to George Floyd's death, and the violence and destruction we're seeing?
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
Yeah, my goodness, what has happened to the media? We know the New York Times died. It was buried. But it seems like most of what was once journalism is now dead. That's a pretty dramatic thing in the history books.
Yes.
In the future, this will be written about as a major inflection point in the course of this republic.
Well, it's sad that the media is not even trying to be objective anymore. They're not trying to be journalists. You know, just a few years ago, reporters used to argue, I don't know, we're not biased. Have you noticed nobody argues that anymore? They have accepted their roles. You know, this week we saw Bari Weiss step down from the New York Times editorial board because, as she described, they view their roles as propagandists. They believe they have enlightened truth, and it's not to have any alternative views. It is to redefine history. Their 1619 project is shameless in that regard. And something you said just a minute ago, Eric, that I think is really important, which is people want substance. They want to understand. It's hard in today's world. I find it hard as a consumer of news. Yeah. Just about any TV station you turn on is a propagandist, whether for the left or for the right. And if you want to know the truth, it often is somewhere in between. You're not getting the whole picture. And I can tell you, when we started the podcast, our production team, their initial advice was, okay, dumb it down a little. Yeah. And Michael and I pressed back. We said, no, we're not going to do that. People are smart and they want to understand. And you're doing exactly the same thing, which is recognizing we ain't dumbing anything down for anybody. The American people are smart, and we need to help give them the tools that they're hungry for.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today.
It's the Dennis Prager Show on this Thursday, 30th of July, home stretch, final half hour. What shall we make of it? Well, I've got some of that responsibility, but the rest of the heavy lifting, that would be you at 1-8-Prager-776. Follow me on Twitter at Mark Davis, M-A-R-K Davis. And if you want a big chunk of me in book form, how about Upside Down? How the left turned right into wrong, truth into lies, good into bad. That's a lot of subtitle. Just do Mark Davis, Upside Down. It's kind of an issues guide on how to lovingly, constructively, and with good humor engage our friends on the left and inform them just how mistaken they actually are. Upside Down, Mark Davis, on Amazon or wherever fine books are sold. Mark Davis, Upside Down. Google it. You'll find it, and there you go. Let me know what you think. All right, your folks, letting me know what you think right now about a variety of things, and so let's return to your calls at 1-8-Prager-776, and we are in West Bloomfield, Michigan. Alex, hey, Mark Davison for Dennis. How are you?
Hi.
Nice to have you.
Hello. How are you?
Good.
Good. I'm glad to be on the show. Can you hear me?
I'm glad you're here, too.
Yes.
Well, if you're going to be here, got to be here. We're in San Antonio. Vincent, hey, Mark Davison for Dennis. How are you?
Yes, sir, Mr. Davis. I believe I have found the perfect way to create a stimulus without it costing the government a penny.
Ooh, I'm all
Let me tell you
yours.
what I'm thinking.
Ready.
Okay, you know, a stimulus check comes in and you have just a limited amount of money. You spend it a few places and it's over with. But I found a way for everybody to benefit. And if you and I are both from Texas, so we both know exactly what we're talking about when I say if the government had a weekend, a national tax-free weekend of shopping, everybody would benefit. Cars could be sold, TVs, everything you bought would be taxable. And here's non-taxable. And the best thing about it is that the government can't lose money because it's not collecting money it never had.
No, exactly right. It is not checks going out. It's just money not coming in. And what Vincent refers to is usually happens right before the school year starts. It's the tax-free weekend. So you can go load up on all kinds of supplies and clothes and helps them cost a little less, which is great. The more you buy, the more you save. I guess the only question I would have is if it would rely on two things. Number one, because I'm prone to like the idea. The two things that would hinge on are would enough people buy enough stuff, especially big ticket stuff, for it to make a difference? And actually, I guess that's just the one thing, really, because it's the paying end and the receiving end. I don't know. What do you think?
But if you think about it, just imagine. I mean, people can go buy a brand new car. That's $600-700 in savings there. They can go buy a TV set. They can go buy anything. They go out to dinner, anything they want. But they're actually going to make more money on that weekend than the $1,000. And not only that, everybody, every business benefits. Every business.
By definition, because in order to get that benefit, you got to go buy something. Vincent, thank you. Appreciate it very much. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Well, let's come back up closer to me here. We're in Dallas. And Janet, that is you. Welcome. Mark Davison for Dennis. How are you?
Hey, Mark. Great. Glad to talk to you. I won't keep you, but I just wanted to see what you thought about why Trump isn't putting student loans on the table. It feels like an opportunity lost to really expand his support if he told Congress, don't send me a stimulus package without helping out the students by cutting their student loan debt.
Because it's, in what way do you want to magically make student indebtedness disappear? Ooh, cellular burp. Try again. In what way do you want to make this indebtedness disappear? Just wave it off a la Bernie Sanders and go, there you go, free college.
Well, it's not fair that they get to have that issue. If we can take it away from them in the stimulus package, then it gives Republicans a way to say, no, we care about the student debt too. In fact, because we're going to be helping everybody out with these stimulus checks, let's also help out our students, these people entering the workforce that have this mountain of student debt, and let's consider how much we can cut off the student loan debt.
Well, because for every student who would say, wow, thanks, I thought I was going to have to pay that back, score, there might be 3 voters who ask, what the hell did you just do? By what magic fairy dust does that person get relieved of? How about pay off my mortgage? How about pay off my car?
But since this morning you've been answering that same question for a whole lot of people who don't want them to spend any money, I see an opportunity there to gain young people's voters.
Well, boy, then that might be the biggest. Well, I can't say that. I don't want to be too hostile. Because is it possible there's some mushy middle independent voter, not college age, maybe somebody's 30 and still, who's grateful that Trump, maybe, but I'd hate it, and it's not going to make me not vote for him. But for every grateful college kid, you might have some folks on principle to say, what am I, chopped liver? So I guess that'd be my short answer. Back in a moment. Mark Davison for Dennis.
The Dennis Prager Show, live from the Relief Factor Pain-Free Studio. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
How are you getting ready for the election in 96 days?
Voter registration. The most important thing that if we want to re-elect Donald Trump, we need to register new voters and specifically target states like the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, specifically Arizona, Maine, North Carolina, Iowa, Colorado, because President Trump needs a Senate that he can work with. And if and when Supreme Court justice seats come up, we need to be able to replace those seats respectfully with a Senate that will confirm his appointments.
So how are you doing that? How are you helping register voters?
Today, I just drove to a mom and her daughter in Centerville, Virginia. She said, Scott, I need to get registered for my baby. Drove to her house, filled out the form, did it myself. Last night, I was in Warrenton, Virginia, Fauquier County, registered 3 new women for Trump last night. The voters are out there. 120 million people did not vote in 2016. 120 million people. I don't see that as a bad thing. I see that as opportunity that we need to get those voters for Donald Trump.
So if somebody's listening to this right now and they want to help register voters, what do they do?
Okay, so first thing, I want you to slide into my DMs on Twitter. It's at Scott Pressler. There's only one S in Pressler.
Oh, you've opened it right out there. No.
I've created a guide, guys, for all 50 states. All 50 states. I don't care if you're in Hawaii, California, Texas. I will teach you how to register new voters. It's simple, it's fun, it's easy, and it's how we elect Trump.
Wow. Did you hear him? You have no excuse now. He's done it for you. The homework has been done. It's easier than cleaning up Baltimore. You can register your neighbors.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
If Joe Biden wins, how significantly changed will America be than if Donald Trump is reelected?
Massively and terrifyingly, for a couple of reasons. Number one, if Joe Biden wins, the odds are pretty high that there's also a Democratic Senate. There's a narrow window where Biden wins and Republicans keep the Senate, but in all likelihood, the two are going to be closely tied together. It means in the Senate, the Senate will end the filibuster if the Democrats take the majority, which means they will be able to pass anything they want with just 50 votes. We'll see massive tax increases, not just the tax cuts repealed, but a massive increase in taxes, a gallop towards socialized medicine, a gallop towards socialism generally. They'll also do something structurally. If Democrats win in November, within the first 6 months of next year, we'll see 2 new states in the Union. They will try to admit both the District of Columbia and Puerto Rico, and their reason is simple and crass. It's power. That would produce, in all likelihood, 4 new Democratic senators. So if the Democrats start in January with 51 senators, they could very well end the summer with 55. That is a dangerous agenda, and they will also try to pack the courts, depending on if they have the votes. What does that mean? That means something like increasing the Supreme Court from 9 votes to 15 votes, which would be putting 6 radical leftists on the courts immediately.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
What do I think Donald Trump will do for
How did Carlin Borisenko, a left-leaning psychologist in New England, find herself at a Trump rally? And how did she react? One of the most powerful videos we've ever put out. The latest video from Prager University. See it at prageru.com, where we teach what isn't taught.
Thank you, Dennis. Dennis is back with you tomorrow for the remaining 16 minutes of program. Mark Davis with you from the big DFW here at 660 AM. The Answer. I knocked out one show this morning, and it's a pleasure to do this one here for Dennis and to be here with you. It's always a joy, and I appreciate it. Follow me on Twitter at Mark Davis if you're of a mind to do that. So as we get ready to dive back to calls, how many curves are we trying to flatten? We're trying to flatten hospitalizations, obviously flattening the death thing is a good idea, and I think we've largely done that. Flattening the cases would be good. And our friends at the Job Creators Network Foundation want us to flatten the fear. What does that involve? It involves presenting facts about reopening our nation's schools safely. As of mid-July, the fatality rate for people under 20 who get the virus is 1/5 of 1%. More than 100 times smaller than folks over 60, like me. Indeed, the American Academy of Pediatrics, representing 67,000 pediatricians across the country, released a statement strongly urging that any policy, quote, should start with a goal of having students physically present in school. And they encouraged public officials to consider the overall well-being of kids, cited the negative effect of mandated remote learning, the social isolation, the depression, the food insecurity, lack of physical activity, ineffective learning, the impact of not going back to school could be a far greater risk than any risk of actually going back. To learn more, go to flattenthefear.com. Flattenthefear.com. All righty, let us roll back to your calls. 1-8-Prager-776. We are in Greenwood, South Carolina. Hey, John. Mark Davis in for Dennis. How are you?
Mark, the only thing that assuages our grief over not having Dennis is having you fill in for him.
I am very, very great. That is extremely kind. Thank you.
So we're glad to have that. Listen, I haven't heard you mention that Herman Cain just died.
Oh, yes, indeed. We spent much of the first hour.
And the cause of death was listed as COVID-19 by the family, but I understand he also had stage 4 colon cancer, which obviously might have had something to do with it.
Well, he went through. That was a good while back, and did that leave his body? Is that prior condition leave him with a system somewhat less able plus advanced age of 74? Was he a more vulnerable COVID patient? Could very well be. But
sure. One of the big things, though, this raises a question, though, that has bothered me some significant amount of time. 537 votes got George Bush elected in Florida over Al Gore. How many Americans have we lost to COVID-19 or COVID-19 related deaths? So I think it's somewhere, the last I heard was somewhere 150,000. Does that favor the leftist Democrats or does it favor Republicans?
I would suggest I would say the first thing that occurs to me that in an election where we may have 120 million votes, that the coronavirus death toll probably doesn't swing the election either way.
That's what I'm hoping. Actually, that's what I'm hoping, but it still makes me uneasy when you think about one vote can count. And
no doubt. But let me give you something. Let me give you something that involves a whole lot more people. The election will be on November 3rd. Any discussion of delaying it, it's just not going to happen. It will be November 3rd. What will America look like? And by the way, early voting, this is funny. I am a lifelong, staunch opponent of early voting. I think it's stupid. Everybody should vote on the exact same day with the exact same window of information. This year, I am willing to put a big old carve out and a big old asterisk on this and be all about early voting, which in my state of Texas will now start on October 13th. So here's the question. No matter whether your state has early voting or not, or all the way to election day, will the presence of the virus among us, the concern about going to a polling place, which is a public place, will that hamper Republican votes or Democrat votes? I don't really know. It might be too glib, might be a little too easy to say. The Democrats seem to be more fearful, and if they want to stay home, knock yourself out.
Well, no, that's not my point, though. My concern is that, and I've been saying this probably since early March, that we Republicans and everybody in the country needs to be wearing masks around other people. So essentially, my position has been similar to I think it was the head of the CDC, who said that if we were all wearing masks, that we could knock this thing out in 4 to 6 weeks or 4 to 8 weeks. Maybe
so, and I don't know if that's true, but maybe so. More mask wearing is absolutely a good idea. And I'll tell you, okay, dude, I love the PSA, but sit tight. Let's have a conversation. I have a feeling that, I don't know about you, but I am seeing way more mask wearing now than I did a month ago. So I have a feeling the message is kind of getting out there. We don't need mandates. That's not America. but I have a feeling that the message is getting out there, and that's part of why we're doing a better job of managing it. We're going to have more cases. The cases are always going to go up in a country that is experiencing liberty. Businesses all over the place are requiring it, which I think is fine. So I think by and large, there's a reason for some level of optimism moving forward. You
mentioned TSAs. Actually, one of the things I wish the president would do, and the CDC and basically Fauci and everybody else would come together in one consistent position on masks, that they would advocate the proper use of masks, and that we would actually show people how to use masks. And
like what? I'm intrigued about the. First of all, President Trump's thoroughly on board for masks. He's made that clear forever. So what are you just maybe the under the nose thing where people are trying to get away with it? I mean, like what?
Yeah, I mean, you see people wearing them on the back of their heads instead of wearing the mask.
That is true. Well, there is no shortage.
Where that can be counterproductive.
I absolutely can. Some people call it the reverse Batman, when you have your nose exposed, it's dangling around your chin. No, if you're don't just wear it, wear it right. The good news is, from the Surgeon General to Dr. Fauci to all kinds of folks whom I admire greatly, there's no shortage of advice out there on slap it on that mask. America has many problems. A shortage of people prodding you to wear masks is not one of them. All righty, Mark Davison for Dennis. Let's wrap this thing up. See who we can take care of in the final segment. Stick around.
The Dennis Prager Show, live from the Relief Factor Pain-Free Studio. Trending now on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
You take an aggressive approach to Black Lives Matter protests, but not to right-wing extremists threatening to lynch a governor if it's for the president's benefit. Did I get it right, Mr. Barr?
I have responsibility for the federal government, and the White House is the seat of the executive
Mr. Barr, let me
branch,
just make it clear. You are supposed to
the Michigan
represent
authorities
the
can
people
handle
of the United States of America,
handle,
not violate people's First Amendment rights. You are supposed to uphold democracy and secure equal justice under the law, not violently dismantle certain protesters based on the president's personal agenda.
Gentlelady's time has expired.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to ask unanimous.
I want you to hear that, right? I'm not going to interfere with Congresswoman Jayapal. I want you to hear that. Do you notice I just let you hear that? Because it's nuts. She's nuts. Bill Barr's trying to say, well, the White House is federal property, and I kind of have a job to do federal property and not Michigan. They've got Michigan authorities to do Michigan, and I'm the federal attorney general. But it's a rant, right? It's an unhinged rant about people with swastikas and guns and beheading the governor as Donald Trump's agenda. That, I think she's slated for Secretary of Defense. I really do. Maybe Homeland Security. The left has overrun the Democratic Party. It is unhinged. And I love playing Democrats. I give them a cable channel 24/7. Because the more you see of them and hear of them, the less likely you are to vote for Joe Biden, the more likely you are to say, Donald Trump's done a pretty good job. I'm sending him back. Stay tuned, America.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
I keep hearing about inequality, institutional racism, systemic racism, structural racism. Martin Luther King, in 1961, gave an interview to the BBC. And he was asked, why are you protesting? And he talked about it. Not being able to work at a company, no matter how qualified you are. Not being able to get into a school, no matter how qualified you are. Separate parks. Segregated transportation. He talked about what he went through, what others went through, the violence that he's witnessed. And when you listen to the interview, and I'll play you some excerpts of it next hour, you ask yourself, what exactly are these young people in the streets protesting for? They're protesting against police brutality. And as I've said, the data do not show that the police are engaging in the
It is the waning moments of the Dennis Prager Show for this Thursday, the 30th day of July. 1-8-Prager-776. Let's do another call, maybe two, and then I got a couple of things to wrap up about the loss of a great... Well, listen, we have observed for many days, and today is the funeral day of the loss of an amazing American of great import, and that is Congressman John Lewis. We learned this morning of the death of Herman Cain, and it's Herman Cain whom I knew and whom I valued so deeply ideologically. I mean, on Congressman Lewis, I'll just say, boy, do I honor that life and that body of work. The heroism on the Edmund Pettus Bridge, as you know, as I've referred often, it's back when Jesse Jackson was vital, the era of Dr. King. These were heroic pursuits. Now, as time has unfolded, it's sort of those battles were largely won, and then a lot of these folks didn't quite know what to do except just be liberal Democrats, which they were. So, for the liberal Democrat voters of Georgia, they remained John Lewis fans. We should all be fans of civil rights era John Lewis, all of us. And that's a kind of a heroism that can deserves to last a lifetime, his and ours. The modern era John Lewis espoused things that I had no use for. He was I don't want to say he was just another Democrat, because he was someone of import and longevity, and that always means something no matter what side of the aisle that you're on. But I haven't agreed with John Lewis about much of anything for almost as long as I've been an adult. But his life was long and filled with all kinds of things. Herman Cain's life was long and filled with all kinds of things. There are people who, because of their politics, don't have much use for Herman Cain's ideas. That's okay. That's okay. Just, and in fact, honestly, I'm on a bit of a roll now. Let me go ahead and take this out in the following way. Lord, welcome into your loving care, your humble servant, Herman Cain. Thank you for the gift of his life, for the things that he fought for, and for the spark that he lit in all kinds of conservatives of all colors. And honestly, and just thank you for, Lord, for the gift of his life. Amen. Might be a good day for you to snag some viewership of Uncle Tom. Larry Elder's in there, Alan West is in there, Candace Owens is in there, know who else is in there? Herman Cain. And it is a remarkable segment of Uncle Tom, the oral history of black conservatism that contains our brother Herman Cain. So we reach out to his family, friends, et cetera, as America says its proper goodbye to Congressman John Lewis. We obviously honor him as well. Herman Cain's passing this morning is something that I have particular gratitude for, and just wanted to make sure I got that in there as well. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Christian. Thank you, Leslie. Always a pleasure. Dennis Prager back tomorrow. Follow me on Twitter at Mark Davis. We can keep touch in that way until next time I'm here, which is whenever they call, right here on the Dennis Prager Show. Have a great day.